day. They lost to the Kansas City, or no, they beat the Kansas City Royals 6-2. Sorry. Darvish
No, they didn't. It was 6-3.
6-3, whatever. Who cares? Spring training.
Okay, they lost. No, they won. It was 6-2. It was 6-3.
But all that matters is Darvish had his spring training debut, pitched 2 scoreless innings in the game, and the Aztecs back in action tonight at Viejas Arena, 8 p.m. tip-off. 7 p.m. is when our pregame coverage starts right here on San Diego Sports 760. Need to hire? You need Indeed. Their end-to-end solution helps you attract, interview, and hire candidates all year round. Schedule and conduct virtual interviews right from your Indeed dashboard. Learn more by visiting Indeed.com/credit.
All right, San Diego and Southern California, what's going on? It's hour 1 of Jon and Jim. We do have Aztec basketball tonight. I want to say this in the nicest possible way, because I do love Jim, even though I give him a hard time. I mean, your updates are not getting better. He's looking at me like he wants to kill me.
No, you want to know my
level of concern,
my level of care for an update?
Well, that's the issue. Have you ever heard the saying "dress for the job you want"? Do you know what it means?
Okay.
You were so mad. Okay, I'm listening.
In an update. All right. What breaking news is going to be earth-shattering in this update?
In this one today?
Yeah.
Well, it's a spring training game that's not televised.
That we're going to talk about.
Okay. So what are you saying?
So if I mess up my update for Padres, don't you think that us talking about it will rectify my mistake?
I don't even know, Brent. I don't even know what to say. Also, I see what you're saying.
You want to tell everybody a little behind the inside baseball, why we even do these updates?
Why? Is there some secret?
Well,
oh no. Okay. Yeah, but updates. Okay, I hear you. We have phones. Is that what you're saying? We don't really need an update. If you really want to know if the Clippers won last night, you could just go to your phone. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. And oh, by the way, I don't want to I want to get this thing in and out as soon as possible.
So we have more time in our
segment.
Like that, and then spend 20 minutes talking about your
why are we gonna spend 4 minutes on an update?
That's fair.
When it's get the update over with. Get the sponsor.
I don't even know why I'm laughing. Okay, a couple of things. I'm with you. I shouldn't be poking fun. Because I really don't care. But I really. Here's the reason I brought it up is you said they lost. No, they won. It was 6-2.
Well, I mean, I have right here Padres. I mean, I got the score wrong. Whatever. Sorry.
Sure.
Yeah.
Score.
Padres beat the Royals 6-3. Darvish made his debut going 2 scoreless innings.
Now, did you consider putting in Oscar Mercado, who hit 2 home runs?
Let me answer that for you. No,
I agree with you. That's fine. All right, San Diego State, San Jose State is tonight at 8. Pregame coverage at 7. Darvish made his debut, and as Jim just said, 2 scoreless innings, 3 strikeouts, I think, in those 2 scoreless innings.
2 innings, 2 hits, 0 earned runs, 3 strikeouts, no walks.
But forget about all that for a second, because you've heard us, like a broken record, for weeks, if not months on end, say, guys, center field, guys, left field, guys, first base, DH, right? You've heard us say that, and maybe you're thinking to yourself, well, they're sports talk radio hosts. They have to talk about something. They're saying something that, we'll see how it plays out. They're overly concerned about the Padres' holes because it's only February. Maybe that's what you're thinking. Well, Fangraphs today publishes an article that is titled this, "The Weakest Positions on National League Contenders 2024 Edition." And a lot of the article is about the San Diego Padres and the concerns we've been voicing since October, saying that Jake Cronenworth at first would be one of the weakest first basemen in the National League. And then saying center field, the plan for the Padres would be one of the weakest in the National League. And then left field would be one of the weakest positions in the National League. So it's one thing you might just say, oh, Jon and Jim, they're kind of downers when it comes to the Padres this offseason. They'll figure it out in center and left and first and DH. But it's not just us saying it. It's not just us offering our opinion. The data, Fangraphs, they crunch it, has the same concerns we do about the Padres less than a month out.
Feel kind of bad for Jake Cronenworth. He's the poster child of this entire piece. The picture,
photo is
the
him.
Photo that is used for this thing on Fangraphs is of Jake Cronenworth. So you're like, oh, that sucks.
Right.
You know,
I mean, that's probably not fair. He's not the only person brought up in the article, but they had to put someone's photo in.
And you know where they're probably going with this, and everybody that watches the Padres and you know covers the Padres knows that Jake Cronenworth at first base compared to everybody else in baseball, like it's towards the bottom half. Like he's towards the bottom half in baseball.
No, way below that, according to Fangraphs, right?
What's lower than bottom half?
Well, 25th.
So the
bottom sixth.
The bottom sixth, I guess. There you go. All right. But if you're looking at it and it says Jake Cronenworth, and then you have left field is obviously another issue, and center field. The Padres are both the number one team there.
Well, number one in terms of the weakest left field and the weakest center field in baseball at this point.
Yeah.
That's because they really don't even have any players there.
Mm-hmm. So it says Jackson Merrill is going to get a long look in left field where he has just 5 games of regular season experience in the minors.
Right.
He hit a combined 277, 326, 444 slash line, a 108 WRC plus with 15 homers and 15 steals, split between high A Fort Wayne and double A San Antonio. Despite no triple A experience, he could make the team out of spring training. That could be interesting and perhaps exciting, but there's a non-zero chance it could be developmentally detrimental.
Who does that sound like? Us? Now, we don't say non-zero. I mean, there's risks and rewards to putting someone like Jackson Merrill in the big leagues. And I'm reading the articles. I thought the article that Kevin wrote today was interesting. It was. But are we maybe putting the cart in front of the horse when a player is 2 for 6? As in, he hasn't even scratched the surface of this spring training as of yet. Now, you add in today, he's 2 for 8. As in, it doesn't mean anything, good or bad or in between. And yes, he played center field today. And that is unique. And he's played a little bit of left field. And that is unique. But are we getting ahead of ourselves? But you see what Fangraphs is saying. And they're saying, well, the Padres have the worst left field, center field options right now in baseball. And because of that, Jackson Merrill, Jim, is getting a shot. I don't care what we have to think about it. And I don't know what it's going to mean. He could hit. He might not. He could be a good defender. He might not be. But I do know this. They don't have any other options. He's going to be on the opening day roster, barring something unforeseen, right?
Right. You read social media and you would think that Jackson Merrill is the next coming of Bryce Harper and who else? Ken Griffey Jr. out there. I get the excitement. I understand it.
Mm-hmm.
I am a cautiously optimistic, excited person as well for Jackson Merrill.
Okay.
I'm just like, let's walk before we run here, guys.
Mm-hmm.
That's maybe slow down just a little bit. And if they have another option, then it would be we'd be talking completely different about the situation.
Right. If they had signed someone in the offseason.
Yeah.
If they didn't trade Juan Soto.
If they had Tommy Pham.
Yes.
So think about that when you're thinking about Jackson Merrill. Everything's great. Everybody wants to see Jackson Merrill succeed. Mm-hmm. AJ Preller kind of needs Jackson Merrill to succeed, or at least he needs somebody in this new wave of talent coming up. Maybe too early, we'll find out. But he needs somebody to pop. It doesn't matter who it is. Like if it's Jacob Marcy, that's great. And if it's Jacob Marcy, not Jackson Merrill, like will that be a little disappointing? Yeah, because Jackson Merrill is such a highly rated prospect.
Right.
But he just needs one, or just right now, guy to pop out of the minor leagues, or at least be serviceable. And with Jackson Merrill, there's no other competition. Like it's one thing if he was competing with a guy like Tommy Pham or whatever, and he just outright won the job in spring. You're like, that's pretty impressive. He beat out a veteran major leaguer, and that the Padres deemed him to be a better option than Tommy Pham coming out of spring. He's going up against nobody. He is competing against himself at this point.
Well, what about Jackson Profar? Because Profar is essentially the starting left fielder of the Padres for the better part of the last 3 years. Now, they already know what Profar is. He doesn't need to go, quote unquote, show you anything in spring. You know who he is. A below average offensive player. They can field his position. They plays multiple positions. But if you went to Korea opening day or came home against the Giants and it was opening day, and Jackson Profar was in left field, that wouldn't be overly surprising. He's certainly a candidate to play in left field to start the year, is he not?
We all know why Jackson Profar's here.
Why is that?
Vibes, positivity. His vibes above replacement this year is all
his
that
VAR.
is his VAR is all that is going to be talked about.
Trademark that.
Yeah, I don't expect him to do much. If he does anything, it feels kind of like a Jorge Alfaro situation a couple years ago when he was signed for, I think, like the league minimum, and he had 5 walk-offs that year, and that was amazing. Kind of feel the same way with Jackson Profar. Don't expect much, but whatever you get from him, it's like a cherry on top because you're paying him $1 million.
Look at it this way, though. Honestly, and I'm with you. I really hope the Merrill decision works because I think they're going to put him on the big league roster. And there are countless examples of rookies having good years. Everyone understands that. And I hope Merrill is the next example of that in baseball. With all that being said, I cannot recall so much vast acclaim for a player based on what? It's been 5 games. Now, he's only played 4.
He has had 8.
He's had 8 at bats. He's 2 for 8. Maybe he has a walk in there. And that's fine. I'm just saying, whether he was 8 for 8 or 0 for 8, how could you make any judgments? And how could you have so much like, oh my gosh, this is the time, this is the player. This reminds me of Fernando Tatis Jr. in 2019. It doesn't for me. Fernando Tatis Jr. in 2019 in spring training did everything all spring long. He was tagging up from second and scoring. He was stealing bases. He was doing a bit of everything. We don't even know if Jackson Merrill, maybe he'll do that over the next couple of weeks. He probably will. But it's been like 5 days, and we're saying it's the best spring we've ever seen. Am I missing something?
On the hype level, they're hyping it up like that summer when Tatis played his way onto the team. But I think realistically, it's going to be more like that year they brought CJ Abrams up and he kind of was just on the team and he didn't really do much.
Well, CJ Abrams is a guy we talked about him yesterday. I would link more so as being closer to a Jackson Merrill than a Fernando Tatis Jr. because of the time spent in the minor leagues. CJ Abrams was brought up, is perceived too early because they had a need.
Kind of needed it.
They had a need. And got a prospect in our system that's a shortstop. And he's a highly ranked prospect in our system. We don't have any other options. So that just put him at the big league level. And he struggled with the Padres. He was not good here. And once he got traded, kind of felt like he found his way a little bit in Washington. Now it's still early for him in his career, but that's kind of almost the same situation here where the Padres have a need. They don't have any other option. They have a guy that doesn't have much experience in the minors for a guy that you were preparing to give the full-time job to. And we'll see how it goes. I mean, like, I love Kevin, but the article, it's still early, but Padres' second-ranked prospect has the ability and mindset to make the jump to the big leagues. He has it.
This has been like 3 days.
It's been 3 days.
Now, let me say that here's the difference between Merrill and Abrams. Not to say it's a straight line. Abrams, when he was asked to play in the big leagues, was playing his position.
Yes.
And was older.
Correct.
He made his major league debut now you're talking about maybe 300 days, but as a 21-and-a-half-year-old, as opposed to a 20-year-old that will be 21, by the way, in April. But you asked Abrams to play his position and basically just be a guy in a lineup, and he has 600 OPS in 40 or 50 games. You're asking Merrill to change positions, do it as a younger player, and kind of be a guy. Now I'm not saying the guy, but Abrams just said to be like a guy, where Merrill's got to be like a guy, not the guy. So I'm just saying you're putting a lot on the dude's shoulders.
Maybe
a lot.
Maybe he does turn out to be, maybe not to the full extent of like this Kevin Acee article, but if you get like more than half of how they're describing Jackson Merrill, maybe he does do it. I don't think we can sit here and say that absolutely not. Jackson Merrill will not succeed because
nobody's talking
X,
about
Y,
his
and Z.
career.
No,
like that's the other thing. I want to be clear that nobody's talking about 2026.
No. I'm talking about right away.
Right now.
I'm talking about right
exactly.
now.
I would never. He might be a 10-time All-Star. I have no. But Jim, would you agree if you were making a bet? Does he exceed expectations in 2024? Like, is he all-star caliber, rookie of the year caliber, or is he a 20-year-old that is being asked to play a position and do a lot for it? Like, you're asking a lot of him, is my point. Are you not?
Well, my first question is, what's his expectation?
Well, you read the article. His expectation is to be Babe Ruth or Barry Bonds or Ken Griffey Jr.
More so Bryce Harper.
But it's not just Kevin's article, because it's not. He's not the only one saying that, whether it's the fan base, the media, Jackson Merrill himself.
Because you know what's going to happen? And when I say you, I mean just like the organization and even Kevin, and we'll talk to him on Friday and I'll ask him about it. But the hype for this kid, you see it growing and growing. I mean, I'm seeing tweets today like, I just loved watching Jackson Merrill play in center field today.
Mm-hmm.
The way that he moves is just so effortless, and the way that he broke on the ball to his right. And oh my God, did you see his throw from the center field wall back to second base?
Right, is it a bit too much?
The walk he had today was such a great discipline at bat. Right. Oh my God. Maybe that's just slow down, because guess what? If he doesn't succeed right away, what do you think that might do for him confidence-wise? He's been propped up on a pedestal.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like, remember when you dated? If you can even remember that far back? No?
Yeah. Well, what's the point? Well, okay, where are you going with this?
Where I'm going with this
people
is,
other than Kristen or Kristen?
Other than Kristen. Did you ever date anyone?
Earmuffs, Kristen.
Kristen?
No, Kristen's the only person I've ever dated.
Right. Aaron is the only person I've ever dated as well.
We're the same like that.
Yes, we are.
Right. I'm sure Aaron's the only
Absolutely.
boyfriend.
What?
You're her only boyfriend ever.
Yeah, exactly. Aaron's been with only one person in her entire life.
That's
amazing.
Me. That's like Kristen.
Same with Kristen. I know, that's
unbelievable.
Awesome.
What are the odds of that?
But like, theoretically,
if you had other boyfriends or girlfriends,
there's been, what do you say? What do you hear when people say about dating? Like, don't put them on a pedestal, because people don't like that. People don't like to be put on this pedestal. They want to be treated normally. They want to be treated regularly. Like, hey, don't put me above you. Put me on your same level. And I feel like we might be, and by we, I mean, not me and John, but just a lot of noise here with the Padres.
Right.
Putting Jackson Merrill on this pedestal, that what if he doesn't reach that level of where people are putting him at right now, right away? Because if he doesn't, it's going to be like, oh, okay, now what?
Did Abrams, I'm trying to remember 2022 before the trade. So he was up. Did he go down based on his start? Or did he, or was he traded off sticking in the major leagues? I thought he went down at some point.
I want to say he did. Now, remind me, the reason why he started in the big leagues was because
Yep, he was injured.
He was injured.
Yep.
And they didn't have any other option. So it was CJ Abrams.
Yeah, so it was a little bit of a need. And what have I been saying? You don't do it based on need. Now, again, with Abrams, a little different. Maybe you go into that year a couple of years ago, you're coming off. Well, no, I mean, you're coming off a down year in 2021. Again, I've said this before. I'm okay with having one guy earn it, one rookie, that's a position player in your lineup that has that opportunity. But I just don't want to rely too much on that. I don't want to put too much on his plate, is my point. And I just feel like they're putting a lot on Merrill's plate because he's been propped up. He's switching positions. He's going to be asked to contribute. I don't think he's going to be asked, Jim, to just play good defense and everything else will take care of itself. I don't think that's going to be his role in left field. Your left fielder last year was Juan Soto.
Mm-hmm.
And I get it. Trent Grisham was in center and he didn't hit.
No.
But like, you're going from Juan Soto to Jackson Merrill. I don't think you want to go from like this 950 OPS player to a 650 OPS player. You're going to be asking for production. It's not just going to be about fielding his position, would be my guess.
And it's really not. I mean, yes, we talk about Jackson Merrill. We've talked about him all the time here.
Yeah.
Is it our fault? Well, we're not. We're trying to be real with everybody. But other than Jackson Merrill being, it's by far and away the number one story. No question about it in my mind.
And the pants.
and the pants, but from a player's perspective, it's all about Jackson Merrill. And that's why it's tough because it's spring training and people need stories to write and people need things to talk about. And so, like, what do you talk about? You talk about the number one thing. You write about the number one thing,
Sure.
which is the Jackson Merrill and his playing in the outfield and how does he look? And he's a top prospect for the Padres. So if he's vying for a major league roster spot, how does he look today? How does he look today? You know, we haven't even talked about you, Darvish, today. You know, and so it's. I don't know if it's fair to the kid to continue to put him on this pedestal of like he's it. He's that. He's that. Could he turn into that guy? Absolutely, he could.
No, we all agree.
We
We all
all
agree.
want him to.
Yes. I want to say, honestly, and I saw this on social media today, like, hey, what's John going to say if Merrill produces in 2024? First of all, I'm not saying anything definitively. We offer our
No.
opinions constantly. I'm using my experience as someone that's been around the sport, the literal game of professional baseball, and having watched this play out, seen top prospects forced onto the scene too quickly. Now, there are examples to the contrary. There's examples of guys that outperform their minor league numbers, stick, lead teams to postseason glory. So hopefully that's the case with Jackson Merrill. I think he's got a very bright future. I'm just asking the question, what happens if it doesn't work out the way
Yeah.
people are hoping it works out in
Right.
April and May of 2024?
Right. And that's the biggest question. That is the biggest question for this team to start this season. If in the first 2 months, like Jackson Merrill puts together pretty much the same type of statistics as CJ Abrams did here, then you got some issues.
Mm-hmm.
You got some real big time issues. And that's where we're like, can the Padres even afford that? Because what Jackson Merrill has done in the minors has not really hate to tell you guys the truth, hasn't really blown the socks off of everybody.
Right.
He's not hitting like 370 in the minors with a 910 OPS. You know, it's a very average, average minor league career so far, but he does have the tools to take that to the next step.
Yes.
You just kind of wanted to see that next step in the minors this year instead of trying to do it at the big league level.
Yeah, I mean, that's well said. I mean, we'll get into it on the other side because there's a couple of texts I want to get to that are great jumping off points related to Merrill and Padres spring training right now. 70470. Start your message with the word team. But he spent 2 years in the minor leagues, real quick. One of them is in the Cal League. If you know anything about the Cal League, the wind's always blown out, and it's a hitter's league. And then, a year ago, he struggled in A-ball to start the year before really coming along in the second half. So more on that. Again, we have Aztecs basketball tonight at 8 p.m. Pregame coverage at 7. We're burying the lead. Well, for me, Ken Pomeroy, Ken Pom, will join the show
I
at
thought
4
you were going to say
p.m.
you Darvish.
Forget about that. Ken Pomeroy, 4 p.m. Mark Zeigler from the UT will get us ready for the game as well at 5 p.m. We're just underway. We'll tell you about our giveaway today as well. Stay with us. It's Jon and Jim. All right, a lot of reaction on the text line in terms of what the Padres should do in left and center field. We'll get to on the other side. 70470. Start your message with the word team or call us 877-767-4760 next.
All right, this update is brought to you by Indeed.com. Cactus League play today. Padres beat the Royals 6-3. Darvish made his spring training debut, going 2 scoreless innings with 3 strikeouts in the win. Moving over to Aztecs as they take on San Jose State tonight. 8 p.m. tip-off, 7 p.m. pregame right here on San Diego Sports 760. Need to hire? You need Indeed. Their end-to-end solutions help you attract, interview, and hire candidates all year round. Schedule and conduct virtual interviews right from your Indeed dashboard. Learn more by visiting Indeed.com/credit.
The free iHeartRadio app, of course, available live or on replay anytime for free wherever you go. Ken Pomeroy will join us at 4 p.m. KenPom.com. We'll talk about his analytics, the fact that March is just, 48 hours away or so. Mark Zeigler will get us ready for tonight. San Diego State, San Jose State, Viejas Arena, second to last home game of the year for the Aztecs. Here's what I wanted to get to. All right, text line real quick, right? 70470, start it with team. And we said this a little bit yesterday. Like, if you're going to say, hey, Merrill had a big day, and give that credence, then you can't say, well, Musgrove got roughed up, but it doesn't matter. But here's another way to spin it. I like this from the 619. Oscar Mercado just hit 2 homers today, so I guess we're all set at center field now, too. Hashtag Preller's logic. I would say this. If we're going to spend so much time on Merrill, he's a little bit of the backup quarterback because he's 20, so nobody's ever seen him in the big leagues. Mercado's 29.
Yeah.
He's been in the big leagues, and he's not had success. But, like, if you're going to talk about Merrill earning a job, because he had a nice day against the Chicago Cubs, shouldn't you also say, and I get it, it's not as sexy, not as many people are talking about Oscar Mercado, but Oscar Mercado today hits a couple of home runs. He's an outfielder. Like, isn't he vying for the same job that Jackson Merrill is vying for or not?
I don't. That's a great question. It's a great question because, I mean, if I'm Oscar Mercado,
Hey, look at me.
And I am tearing the cover off the ball this spring training, I'm probably thinking to myself, why am I not getting an opportunity here to vie for a starting position? And usually with spring training numbers, if a guy comes in like the 5th inning and it's like 2 home runs later in the game, those are off of pitchers that you're not going to see at the big leagues. It's about what you do early in the games versus the big league starters like today, like Michael Wacha or like Yu Darvish, or like the other day for the Cubs. I forget who pitched, but I know he was a major leaguer, from Jackson Merrill. Like you're more impressed and you care more about those at bats than you do late inning at bats off of guys wearing number 97 with no nameplate or no ironed on nameplate.
No, you're right. I agree.
So you look at today's game, and if I'm looking at Oscar Mercado,
he hit him. One of them was in the middle of the game, and then one of them was late, right? I don't know who he hit him on.
Look, he came in for Tatis.
So he didn't see the starter.
So he didn't see the starter.
Yep.
He didn't start the game.
Yep.
And so maybe those things are definitely weighed into the decisions for certain players. If Mercado was starting alongside Jackson Merrill these games, and he will do like this stuff against Jackson Merrill, whatever he's doing, then we have a real discussion. But if you get guys coming in middle of the game or late in the game for a pinch hit or replacing the starter, and they do really well, also factor in who they're facing, the timing of it all, and then that's where
you're right.
That's where we say.
I agree. And then there's this from the 619, and I really don't agree with this, but I understand the commentary. He says the hype feels like Chris Paddock. Now, again, that spring you had Paddock, who had a really good 10, 15 starts in the major leagues. And then you had Tatis, who, of course, has become, one of the best names of his generation. We'll see how it plays out. But so obviously Tatis has worked out pretty well. He got himself $300 million. Chris Paddock was traded away, I forget for what, to Minnesota. So, yeah, that was interesting because that spring, it wasn't just about Tatis. There was a lot of Chris Paddock hype for years. For 1 or 2 or 3 years, there was a lot of attention on Chris Paddock. It does feel like the Merrill attention, while not on par with Tatis, is elevated maybe to the level of someone like Chris Paddock. I get it, different position. We understand it, but it's a lot of attention.
Chris Paddock was a little older. He's 23 years old when he made his big league debut.
Gotcha.
He had a fantastic rookie season. 140 innings pitched, 3.33 ERA, and 26 starts. I mean, it got him the opening day nod the next year, even though it was the COVID year. In 2020, remember?
I do.
It became like not Jackson Merrill. It became, all right, Chris Paddock's your opening day starter. And by the end of that short season, they didn't even want to pitch Chris Paddock in the postseason versus anybody because they didn't trust him at all. And he completely fell off a cliff. I think with him, it was more mental than anything. His mental state just completely eroded. And he lost all confidence.
Yep.
But hey, if you get Jackson Merrill brought up and he performs like Chris Paddock performed in his rookie season, that's amazing. You just got to make sure he doesn't fall off a cliff like Paddock did. And Paddock also, if I'm looking at his minor league stats here, he was
really good, right? His minor league numbers?
Yeah, I mean,
how else was he so hyped?
Exactly. And he actually went out there, and I remember he pitched really well in spring training. I'm just afraid if Jackson Merrill, I was thinking about this today, 2 for 8 on the spring right now.
Yeah, it's fine.
Okay. If Jackson Merrill does not have this lights out spring training where he's hitting like close to 300 with an OPS of above 800 and just, making every single play that he possibly can in center field and doing everything he possibly can. If he doesn't do that and say he just has like an average spring, then how are you going to justify putting him in the majors?
Yeah, but how are you going to tell the fan base, to your point, where he's been propped up on a pedestal and is basically being anointed this position or opportunity, that he's not on the team? You could tell me that March 13th is going to roll around, and even to your point, let's say it's a good spring but not a perfect spring, but everyone's talking all spring about how it's Merrill's job, and then all of a sudden it's Cal Mitchell or Oscar Mercado or whomever else, or they bring in, or it's Jerkson Profar, or it's Tommy Pham or whomever. Doesn't it feel like you've kind of set yourself up, you've set your fan base up for this guy to be on the team, even though it's February 27th and we haven't played a week's worth of games? That's what it feels like to me.
I personally would feel comfortable if Jackson Merrill started in the minors this year, just because I'm afraid, even though I'm optimistic, I'm cautiously optimistic, but there is that worry that like this hype is not going to be rewarded here right away like people want it to be. And if Jackson Merrill starts in the minors, I think everybody should be okay with that. And maybe view it as like this might be the best for him if this season is truly dubbed the transition year.
I agree with you. And by the way, I'm all for it. Tag me on Twitter. You can tag Jim as well. When in Korea, in his first plate appearance, he singles through the left side. Tag me. That's not my point, obviously. If you know anything about baseball, it's played out over 600 plate appearances. So I'm not saying he's not capable of producing. That's the last thing I'm saying. I'm saying you're asking a lot of someone to be a regular at the age of 20 and switch positions and contribute to a winning team. That's my point. And are you putting him in a spot where he can be successful and succeed out of it? Or to Jim's point, and the fan base may not like it, but if you start him in AA or AAA and he hits for 30 or 60 days, you can call him up. Season's not over March 20th. He doesn't have to be on the team March 20th. He could be up May 20th and contribute in a significant way.
Would you rather have Jackson Merrill? I'm talking to the fans, not you. Would you rather have Jackson Merrill start the year and everyone's excited? Oh my God, Jackson Merrill made the big league club out of spring training. That's amazing. And say he kind of struggles? Or would you rather have Jackson Merrill be sent down to AA or wherever and get called up middle of August, but that 4 months of time in the minors was the time he maybe needed at the big league level, and then he actually in August and in September, regardless of where the Padres are standing wise, hits.
Well, I prefer the middle, which is to see him before August. I think there's a meet me in the middle. Like, I don't know if we need 4 or 5 months in the minor leagues.
Well, maybe you do. I don't know.
I don't know either.
I don't know.
I don't know either. But I prefer the latter. Of those two options you gave me, he's up, but he struggles. Nobody wants to see him struggle. That serves no one any good.
Yeah.
Gonna go buy a Jackson Merrill jersey, be like, look, he made the opening day roster and he hits 180. Nobody. That's not win. Who cares?
Yeah.
That's not beneficial for anyone.
Yeah. All what's the saying? Like waiting, like all things come to those who wait.
No, that's not the saying.
Oh,
good things come to those who wait.
Good things come to those who wait. I think with Jackson Merrill, it would probably be in his best interest and the Padres' best interest if there was a little like waiting of this, and maybe let this hype die down just a little bit, because he makes the big league roster. What's all we're going to be looking at in the first game of the year?
Jackson Merrill. Yeah. And some other things.
And if he goes 0 for 4 with 2 strikeouts, or what if he goes hitless in Korea?
I mean, I'm not going to leave him there.
I know the flip side is, well, what if he goes, 4 for 8 in Korea?
Right.
I get it. But what's more likely to happen is what we're saying.
All right. Ken Pomeroy is going to join us at 4 p.m. He's the guru of modern college basketball analytics. He'll join us coming up at 4 p.m. Mark Zeigler is on the show at 5 p.m. We'll get you ready for San Diego State and San Jose State on the other side, plus some additional texts we need to get to. 70470. Start it with team. How do you say Oscar's last name, Jim? That's next. Stay with us on John.
I'm messing it up.
Yeah, you are.
Mercado?
That's not it.
Say it.
Mercado.
Sorry. Oscar Mercado. I don't know.
All right, guys, it's Schaefer. I've been telling you about my friends over at Novo Brazil Brewing, proud supporters of the Mesa Foundation Collective, which in turn supports San Diego State basketball players, men's and women's. They've got this amazing brand new co-branded kombucha, the Aztecs Raspberry Kombucha, that benefits the collective. It was taste tested by a number of current Aztecs, Lamont Butler, Jaden Ledee, Micah Parrish, and others. It's terrific. You need to check it out. And Novo Brazil Brewing is a terrific sports bar. They're all over the county, including one at Otay Ranch, one at IB, this brand new one in Mission Valley. They all have great food and drinks and massive LED screens. You need to check out the fresh new spot in Mission Valley, which opened up maybe 6 or 8 weeks ago. It's indoor outdoor, which I absolutely love. Obviously in San Diego, it seats 350. They've got an amazing full bar menu, over 60 taps of Novo Brazil beer. They have the kombucha flavors we've been telling you about. They have seltzers, but it's great for the family because they have great food offerings as well. Sandwiches, salads, tacos, burgers, empanadas, appetizers, Brazilian inspired entrees. I love their food and drink, and you will as well. Check them out. Great spot to watch your favorite game, whatever it is. Tonight, college hoops. This weekend, of course, as well. Check them out at all their area locations. And for more information, visit novobrew.com. That's Novo brew.com. Ken Pomeroy. Here's the difference between me and Jim, or a number. Here's the difference
Yeah,
between me and
just
Jim.
name one of them.
This is all you need to know. Jim at the break is like, oh my gosh, you have so many questions for Ken Pomeroy.
And Pomeroy.
And Ken Pomeroy in the runtime. Like, so you're going to be critical of me because I prepared?
No. My thing is like, you there's like preparing, and then there's like
what over preparing,
like to the point of like.
He probably figured he has to ask questions, double the questions.
Because
so.
I told Jim he can ask one question.
Hey, you told me you can ask one question.
Okay, I have
fine.
8 or 9 or 10 questions in here. That's how you interview. I mean,
I know it is.
Like, by the way,
I'm not. Look, Ken Pomeroy, you already told me take the segment off. So I'm like, okay, cool.
Really, you ask questions? Just make vague statements and get reactions.
Oh my gosh, I'm just cracking up for some reason. All right, Darvish was scintillating today.
Amazing.
In 2 scoreless innings,
Cy Young.
allowed a couple of hits, but he struck out 3. Has he now leapfrogged Musgrove in Korea to pitch game 1? I mean, Musgrove hasn't gotten anyone out.
You're trying to be so serious.
I know. Well, that's because you're like, yo, we need to talk about Darvish.
No,
so I'm trying to make it into this like big thing. Darvish today, I don't know if you can pitch better than this. He went 2 innings against the Royals, allowed 3 hits, but he struck out 3. So
amazing outing, scintillating,
right?
Shined.
Is this the type of outing that says he needs?
We're going for it.
Exactly, dude.
I will say that it just goes back to the general point. And being serious for a second.
Okay.
It goes back to the general point of how bad this team needs Darvish. What? If you're watching this on YouTube right now, you just saw John spit up his water.
John almost did a spit take.
He spit all his water.
I'm a mess.
What do you think I was gonna say? What did you think I was gonna say?
Every once a year. Hold on, I'll be back.
I'm like, they need Darvish for a spring training Cactus League chip. What is happening? There's like a towel over here. Oh, this is fully gone off the rails. Oh my God. Oh, dude, what was so funny?
I don't know, the way you said something.
I'm like, they need Darvish, and you just lost it.
I lost it.
Wow, this is
I'm back.
Is this going to like
gosh.
a Marconi Award? Are we still gonna be nominated for best radio show in the UT Readers Poll for this?
I don't think so.
What has just happened?
This is what happens. Ken Pomeroy is going to join us in 8 minutes. Where were we? Darvish.
Yeah.
Darvish. It's encouraging because he didn't pitch the first 4 or 5 days, and he was supposed to, and he goes out there and he throws 2 innings. That's encouraging, seriously.
What I was gonna say before you just lost it is that they're going to need Darvish in the worst way possible this year to be a frontline starter. Same thing with Joe. We talked about Joe. The outings in spring training aren't really that, concerning at all. I don't know why you're working on like new pitches. Like, just do what you've been doing, but like make it better. I don't know. Anyway, and the thing with you is his health, because he's been injured 2 of the last 3 seasons he's been here in a Padres uniform.
Right.
And so he's going to have to be pretty much fully healthy this season, along with Joe. Joe kind of had some fluky injuries last year with the foot. Now, the shoulder capsule injury, like that was concerning. But other than that, Joe's been pretty fairly healthy for this Padres team.
Yeah, he has. I agree.
Darvish does not.
Right.
And to have you have to have a healthy Darvish. You have to have a 175, 180 plus inning Darvish. And you're going to probably need close to the all-star version of Darvish from a couple of years ago. Simple as that. If you get that, then you might have a shot.
What do you mean if? Did you see today?
Oh, best pitcher on the planet.
2 scoreless, 3 Ks against Kansas City.
I can't wait to go watch back you spitting up water all over the YouTube stream.
Is it on?
If you're watching us on YouTube, by the way, go subscribe on YouTube, Jon and Jim 760. And you can watch all our videos and watch all our shows and listen to us there. But yeah, it was on there. I can't wait to go watch it back.
When I lose it, I
You-
lose it.
when
It
you-
happens every like
yeah.
6 months.
When you laugh, you just can't stop
I
laughing.
can't stop laughing.
You just can't stop.
I somehow turned this around. All right, Ken Pomeroy, the guru of college basketball analytics.
I'll
His
see you in about
thoughts
20
on
minutes.
San Diego State, the Mountain West, the NCAA tournament coming in a couple of weeks. There's so much to get into with Ken Pomeroy. Can't wait to do it on the other side. Mark Zeigler will get us ready for San Diego State, San Jose State tonight at 8, right here on San Diego Sports 760. Mark's going to join the show coming up at 5 p.m. Hour 2, Jon and Jim. That's next. JD Gaucho. Sorry, dude. We're doing a lot of, I don't even know what we're doing. What are we doing? Thanks. Appreciate your super chat. Oh, God. So he wants to know if Ken Pomeroy are okay with court storming, which is a good question. And also said Mississippi Valley State won their first game of the season on senior night. They were the last winless team in Division One. Is that good? Is that good, Jim, that the last Division One winless team won? Yeah. Jim says yes. Court stormings, man. We've been talking about it. We'll talk more about it over the next couple hours. Appreciate you, man. Really do. We're going to be back in a moment. Thank you for your support of the channel. Guys, we'll be back.
Thank you. All right, this update's brought to you by Indeed.com. Padres Royals Cactus League spring training today. Padres won 6-3. Yu Darvish made his spring training debut. Pitched 2 scoreless innings, striking out 3, giving up 3 hits in the win. And the Aztecs, they take on San Jose State tonight at Viejas Arena, 8 p.m. tip-off. 7 p.m. is when our pregame coverage starts right here on San Diego Sports 760. Need to hire? You need Indeed. Their end-to-end solution helps you attract, interview, and hire candidates all year round. Schedule and conduct virtual interviews right from your Indeed dashboard. Learn more by visiting Indeed.com/credit today.
All right, San Diego and Southern California, what's going on? Hour 2, Jon and Jim. We have Aztec basketball tonight, 8 p.m. start, 7 p.m. pregame. San Diego State, San Jose State, second to last regular season home game of the year for the Aztecs, who, of course, are having this really good season again, looking to get back to the NCAA tournament and hopefully make some noise in 2024 like they did in 2023, getting to the national championship game in a Final Four for the first time in school history. We have Ken Pomeroy back with us, one of the great gurus in the college basketball analytics space. I think he's been kind enough to join us each of the last couple of years and back now for a third consecutive year in San Diego. Ken, always appreciate your time. We had someone on the midday show today that didn't realize that Ken Pom is a person, right? Ken Pomeroy, that's you. Your site is Ken Pom. How often does that come up that people don't realize that like it's an individual doing the work that you're collecting on your site?
Yeah, it comes up surprisingly often. I mean, I don't know how people expect the the ratings to get made. It just doesn't come out of thin air. Like there does have to be a person on the other end, and you are talking to that guy.
All right, so Ken Pomeroy with us,
you're a real person.
He's real. It's not AI, even in
Yes.
2024. Ken Pomeroy with us right now on Jon and Jim. All right, as you know, the Mountain West the last couple of years has been really good. I mean, they've had 4 teams in the NCAA tournament in 22, and then in 23. We could be trending for more than that in 2024. Even with the success of the last couple of years, are you surprised that the league is even better than it's been recently?
I would say no. I mean, I think very clearly established themselves as the best league outside of the so-called power conferences, and all the programs that are in the running are programs that I think have had pretty sustainable success over the recent history. I mean, the surprises maybe a team like Utah State, who completely flips its roster and has a new coach, like that is unusual and really unprecedented in college basketball history for a team to be this good with a completely new roster. But in general, I think the other programs have been pretty stable, in terms of their coaching staffs and personnel, and so it's not too surprising that those top 6 teams in the league have had the success they've had this year.
And with the Mountain West Conference being as deep as it is this year, how wide open is this Mountain West Conference tournament in your opinion?
Yeah, I mean, it should be a lot of fun. I mean, the top 6 teams are very evenly matched, and you throw UNLV in there, which is they're causing problems for those top 6 teams on a pretty regular basis, and obviously having the event in their building is a little bit of a boost for them. So yeah, it's going to be really fun because good luck predicting who's going to win that. There's just going to be, especially from the quarterfinals on, there's going to be a bunch of close games that come down to the final possession, and it should be one of the better conference tournaments around.
Don't you typically do like that algorithm where the predictions are showing the percent chance that someone can win a league? Could you envision where there's like 5, even 6 teams? I know they'd have to play an extra game in the Mountain West tournament, but could there be like 5 teams with a 10-15% chance of winning the Mountain West tournament?
Yeah, something like that. I mean, normally, I think you look around the various conference tournaments and like the favorites tend to be, there's a few conference tournaments where the favorites over 50%. Yeah. There's a bunch where they're like between 30 and 50. And, obviously the way the ratings shake out right now, the Aztecs should be the favorite in that event, but I don't know where they'll be at, but I would guess it would be sub 30%. They might be 25% and, the other 5 teams splitting most of the rest of the 75%. So, it's going to be, pretty much up for grabs.
Ken Pomeroy with us right now, Jon and Jim, San Diego Sports 760. What do the analytics and the predictive metrics say about San Diego State, where they are today compared to, not that you have this off the top of your head, but even a year ago? I feel like maybe some of these metrics, including Ken Pom, has San Diego State maybe even in a better spot today than they might have been a year ago. Not to say that predicts the run that they made a year ago, but San Diego State has had obviously a very nice season to this point.
No question. Yeah, I mean the metrics are pretty similar. We've seen this from Dutcher coach teams now. I mean, very similar to the Fisher coach teams. A very strong defense, and the offense kind of comes along for the ride. But this year the offense is a little bit better. I mean, in particular, the 2-point shooting is better. I mean, ranking 80th in the country, which is really the best since the 2020 team, which mythologically won the national title, I think. But probably in everybody's mind out there. But so they're a little bit better positioned than they were last year. Obviously, as you mentioned, I mean, there's a lot of other factors that go into making a deep run in the tournament, but they're certainly just as well positioned as they were last year to surprise. Well, I don't know if you're going to surprise anyone, but certainly to make a deep run.
It's interesting in the Mountain West, as you know, because correct me if I'm wrong, you live in the West and you're a Wyoming fan, aren't you? I remember that from our conversations.
A Wyoming alum and a Wyoming fan, for better or for worse.
Okay, so no, I'm glad we can mention that because I'm looking for your 30,000-foot view on San Diego State. But like speaking of like the elevation that is the Mountain West, which makes it somewhat unique, I don't believe your algorithm takes into account elevation, but there are other metrics around college basketball that do. Is there a way for a metric, in your opinion, to measure the impact of elevation without like over punishing teams for playing at elevation? Because Wyoming, for example, plays, all of their home games at elevation. There are metrics that punish them just for doing that alone, right?
So, yeah, I mean, I think we should name names here, and I believe it's the BPI that seems to do this. And I would say, like, in a more general sense, I don't know if they're necessarily punishing for elevation, but they are accounting for home court advantage. And so, Wyoming and Air Force, Colorado State, Nevada, these teams that, New Mexico, these teams that play at elevation tend to have, higher home court advantage than most of the rest of the country. And so, so that's what the BPI is doing. I don't know if they overpunish teams. I do know that, I've looked at this myself, and I have like team-specific home court advantage that I've computed. I don't include that in my ratings, but I probably should because, the teams that have those higher home court advantages, they tend to underperform my predictions at home and or overperform at home and underperform on the road. And that may explain some of the struggles for these other Mountain West teams once they get into the tournament that we've seen, last 2 years. I mean, really, with the exception of the Aztecs, the conference as a whole ends up kind of falling on its face. And it could be because they are like slightly overrated in some of these metrics that, don't account for the fact that they do have strong home court advantages based on elevation.
Speaking of the home court advantages, now, of course, San Diego State's literally at sea level. We're in San Diego. Some of these others, like Wyoming, is 7,000 feet plus above sea level. Does the Mountain West, or do some of the schools in the Mountain West enjoy some of the best home court advantages in the nation or not? Like, how do they compare to other dominant home venues in the nation?
Right. I typically, I think if you look over the last 20 years, look at home court record in conference play, I believe the Mountain West is number one.
Wow.
This is not something I've looked at like this year, but when I have looked at it in the past, that is the case. And so I think to me, there was always two things going on there. One is the elevation, although obviously you have cases where like Colorado State's playing at Wyoming, and that's not, nobody's benefiting from elevation there. But also the travel is not terribly easy. I mean, this is a conference that covers a lot of ground. And so, you don't have like short 10-minute bus trips for some of these games like you might have in some of the other leagues. So both of those issues, I think, come into play. And it makes it really difficult to win on the road. It really hasn't been the case this year. I think home court winning percentage, I'm just looking it up, is 58% in Mountain West play. So that's pretty average. But, there's kind of random variability from year to year. I mean, this year's been especially unusual in that Air Force has won 2 games on the road, which, and none at home, which is pretty rare for them. But generally, yes, Mountain West has the best home court advantage, or the strongest home court advantage in the country.
Ken Pomeroy with us right now, Jon and Jim. This is more Jon, by the way, Ken. Jim, this is my forte. Jim,
I just let him go.
He just lets me go. I just need a few minutes with Ken Pomeroy. It might be Jon and Ken come 2025.
Probably.
We'll see. We'll talk to the bosses. There's been some chatter, Ken, on social media. Like, it's been kind of unique. I've been tagged into it about like the Mountain West against the ACC. Like, it's never happened in the history of my time doing this, but there's been this Mountain West ACC chatter. You run the numbers. How does the Mountain West this year compare to the ACC?
Yeah, the ACC is actually ranked a little higher this year in terms of overall strength. I mean, I think if you're, there's various ways you can rate conference strength, and I guess the simplest would be like tournament bids, and the Mountain West is going to win that battle. I think we understand, but right now the ACC is the 5th toughest conference, and the Mountain West is 7th, and there's not like a huge gap actually between 5, 6, and 7. 6 is the Pac-12, by the way. So, if the Mountain West did have a strong NCAA tournament, they actually probably could catch the Pac-12 and maybe even the ACC. But yeah, they're just a little bit behind the ACC. I will, like, it is an interesting phenomenon that, like, there is definitely a group of hardcore ACC fans out there. And I'm someone who actually grew up in ACC territory. And, I don't remember this kind of like sheer fandom for a conference. And you root for your teams, and then you kind of root for the rest of the league. But wow, there are some very vociferous people out there regarding the ACC and defending its honor, which obviously has, I think, an objective view would show has slipped a bit here over the last decade.
Yeah, there's no question about it. There's an interesting conversation that's played out among Mountain West circles, Ken, which is about, should the league remain at 18 conference games, which it is right now, or should they go true round robin? They're like the Big East with the 11 teams. So you could go 20. So where do you weigh in on that? Again, you crunch the numbers. Is it of benefit or not? I think I know the answer. Is it of benefit or not for the Mountain West to expand its conference schedule?
So it really depends what you do with those 2 extra games, right? Like, so you can go to 20, and you're more familiar with the Mountain West schedule than I am. I assume they're trying to make it so that the top teams are playing the top teams. Correct. And we have fewer, games against, where tournament teams are playing, San Jose State and Air Force.
Yep.
And if you do that intelligently, then I think 18 is fine. Like, you don't need, Nevada playing San Jose State twice, or, playing Air Force twice. So to me, I think you're fine, in terms of like maximizing your tournament bids. I think you're fine staying at 18. You hope that the top teams take those 2 extra games and schedule intelligently. And if they do so, you have a situation like you have this year where you're going to do very well in terms of getting bids.
Ken Pomeroy with us, KenPom.com, Jon and Jim, San Diego Sports 760. There's always this outcry in the Mountain West. I assume it's like this nationwide, but I'm following it from like a Mountain West lens. This idea that, the officiating's terrible in the Mountain West. Now maybe people, actually not maybe, I know people say, the officiating is whatever in college basketball. What do you see? I mean, is that a big... Did you hear that? The officiating in the Mountain West, or the officiating in the ACC. I mean, this is, if it's an issue in the Mountain West, it's just an issue in college basketball in general, right?
I think it's an issue in basketball in general. Like, I just think basketball is the most difficult sport to officiate. You have 3 people trying to officiate 10 much younger, more athletic people in live action. Like, you don't have, in a lot of cases, you don't have the ability to think about calls. If you need to make a foul call, you need to decide right now, was what I saw a foul or not? And the best officials, I think, by and large, are going to do a great job, and they're going to get in the best position and get the best angles. But they still get fooled from time to time. And obviously on a Saturday afternoon where there's 140 games going on, like, your random, Air Force CSU game is not going to have the best officials. It's going to have officials further down the line, and you're just going to get a worse quality game called. So, I mean, it is, I actually was a time where I wanted to do like kind of a blog piece on, finding tweets from fans of every league saying, claiming that their league's officials were the worst. And everybody feels that way. But especially now, officials are, much more national than they were 10 years ago. Like, leagues don't have their own set of officials. Well, I know that the same, top Western officials are working Mountain West games, but, all the top Mountain West officials are doing Pac-12 games. They're doing random WAC games in the middle of the week. Like, they're working different leagues. So, I mean, it's definitely not a feature of basketball. It's a bug. It's just really difficult to officiate. That's why we have crazy reviews at the end of games. But it's just, it's just the way the game is. It's a really tough game to officiate.
Yeah, there's no question about it. Ken, a couple of more before you go, just regarding, this time of year, Selection Sunday, and the selection committee's job of choosing like the best at-large candidates. Obviously, the automatic qualifiers win their leagues, but then they're tasked with finding the best, whatever it is, 36 or so at-large candidates. Is there something the committee, in your opinion, gets wrong still? I mean, it's much more metrically oriented today than it was, let's say, 10 years ago today. But if you were choosing the best at-large candidates, is there something you would do the committee doesn't do to make that selection?
Well, yeah, I mean, I controversially, I do support definitely a more objective approach. Really just a purely objective approach would be, something I would support, just in terms of quantifying. We know how hard it is to beat, X ranked team on the road or X ranked team at home. We can give teams credit for those achievements, and we can have a much fairer process. What the committee gets wrong is they really do not know how to quantify like a situation like Indiana State, who is beating a lot of okay teams on the road consistently. And they obviously at this time of year do not get the chance to play, top 30 teams. So, but they are able to beat a lot of okay teams on the road and a lot of okay teams at home. And they're very consistent in doing that. And that's actually very difficult to do. It'd be very difficult for, San Diego State to go on the road to Illinois State or Southern Illinois or teams like that and win 14 or 15 of those games. And the committee just consistently undervalues those kind of achievements. And so, yeah, I would definitely favor a more objective approach that would properly account for that.
Ken, how do you see the top of the college basketball this year compared to a year ago? Again, we understand the randomness of the NCAA tournament, but a year ago, I want to say there was no top 3 seed in the Final Four. I think that's right. I think UConn was a 4. So, that's obviously a little bit of an aberration or abnormal, right? A year ago. What are your expectations? I mean, how do you see the top of the sport, the top 10 today, as opposed to the top 10, let's say, a year ago?
If you look at my ratings, it's fairly similar. It might be slightly stronger than it was last year. I mean, the top was, I think, historically, I don't know what the word is. Mediocre is probably not fair, but it was down from what we've seen in the past 20 years. It's a little bit stronger this year. Certainly, that top 3 of Houston and Purdue and UConn has been pretty consistently the top 3 over the last month. And they're, all strong teams. They're not historically strong teams. I don't know that we'll ever see historically strong teams again, just given, some of the forces that are in college basketball now that weren't there 10 or 20 years ago. But you still have very good teams. And even last year, obviously that, there was one half of the bracket that got completely blown up. Yep. But UConn as a 4 seed was, in terms of talent and ability, quite a bit stronger than your typical 4 seed. This year, they're going to be properly seeded as a 1 seed. And, so I guess to answer your question, yes, it's a little bit stronger than last year. There's still plenty of parity. There's a lot of strength in the lower seeds. Seeds 6 through 11 this year will be as strong as, or as close to the top of college basketball as they've ever been. So, it should be another tournament where we're going to see, quite a few upsets, more upsets than normal, I guess.
Finally, I'm just curious, you're going back a year, but San Diego State makes that run last year. You watch West Coast hoops, you see San Diego State all the time, obviously. Was the level of surprise for you, or not necessarily, because it's kind of like the lotto, like the more tickets, I mean, they're always in. They've been in a lot, and in a one and done format, at some point, maybe you're going to make a run. What was your reaction to San Diego State making a run when they did it?
Yeah, I mean, again, part of it was, I guess, that, the bracket got busted open to some extent. I mean, San Diego State did that a little bit on their own, but so that helped. I mean, it wasn't obviously if you're comparing level of surprise to, San Diego State or Miami or FAU making it, like San Diego State to me was the least surprising of that. It's some surprise, but they're obviously a well-coached team. The defense is really difficult to score on, and Lamont Butler made a fantastic play against FAU to win a game. So, you go back and look at a lot of those games are just very close, coming down to the last possession. And San Diego State was on the right end of a lot of that stuff. And so I'm not going to say I was like expecting them to make the championship game or whatever. No way. But obviously, any team out of the Mountain West, San Diego State seems to be the team that was built more to go deep into the tournament.
No doubt about it. Ken, always enjoy it. We appreciate you hopping on here in San Diego. Obviously, a lot of Aztec fans were the flagship. People are excited off last year and, of course, what they've done here this year as well. And again, for our listeners, you need to check it out. It is an amazing resource for college basketball fans. KenPom, KenPom.com. March is almost here. Ken, appreciate you doing it. Thanks so much.
All right. Thanks for having me on, guys.
All right. Good stuff.
That
Jim?
might have been my best interview I've ever done in my entire life.
That was really good by you.
It was very good by
you.
me.
You were really
I'm gonna
good.
pat myself on the back for that one.
Yeah. I thought you were good.
What was your favorite question I asked?
Did you ask what did you ask about the Mountain
That
West?
one.
That one.
I mean, you could ask questions if you wanted. I just feel like I don't even know.
It's like if I had on like a wrestler or like
exactly.
or like
Thank you.
Marvel person.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly right. That's
you'd be like, I what? Like, take it off. Like if I had Kevin Feige on.
Who?
Exactly. Like that's the biggest name one of the biggest names in Marvel. But like to that, like your Ken Pomeroy is probably like my Tony Stark, Robert Downey Jr. I don't know. Like if I wanted to talk about Marvel stuff.
Yeah, it's
Ryan Reynolds, like
right.
Hey,
I don't even know.
it's Deadpool.
It's an interesting conversation to have because, again, it's numbers oriented. So I get it. It's not the most thrilling conversation,
I'm not good with numbers.
It's almost March, and San Diego State's in the thick of it, and he's not a bracketologist, by the way. So I'm not going to. Oh, you think they're a 3 seed in the West or a 4 seed in the?
Yeah.
Somebody does. He does predictive metrics, and he's like received wide acclaim. This is just some guy that 20 years ago is like, let me crunch the numbers. Now you watch ESPN, they're like, oh, Ken Pom says Butler is this or San Diego State is that, and it's kind of interesting how he's built this kind of empire. I don't even know.
808 on the text line says John's going to need some alone time and a cigarette after this interview.
I don't smoke.
But if you did,
maybe a Diet Coke. Although ever since Jim told me soda causes kidney stones. By the way, Brent, he gets out of the hospital like a week ago. He still is like dealing with the after effects of a kidney stone. He picks up a Coke today from the vending machine.
Why are you surprised? I'm surprised it took this long.
I know.
It's my first soda in
a week.
Over a week.
Yeah. 10 days.
And
so are you going to get right back to where you were?
No.
Not right back to where you were.
No, not a soda a day. No, I'm not going to do that.
Okay. As he chugs some water. All right, here's what we're going to do. Mark Zeigler joins us.
Boys and girls.
Mark Zeigler will join us at 5. We'll talk about San Diego State, San Jose State here tonight. We'll get to the wrap on the other side. This hour, by the way, Jim, we have a pair of tickets to see Santana and the Counting Crows.
Oh, okay.
The Oneness Tour, North Island Credit Union Amphitheater. This is August 30th. Tickets and info at livenation.com. Coming up next, the wrap. Trainwreck Radio is ahead. Mark Zeigler at 5 p.m. What are you laughing at?
858. Did Jim do anything productive during that entire Ken Pom interview?
Nothing.
Or just sit there and mess around on his phone?
He did nothing.
I didn't even sit on my phone. I was just sitting there.
I think he was asleep for at least 2 minutes.
Well, behind the scenes, when Jim did his question, I sent a text to our group chat of a gif of a person putting their feet up and drinking a beer. And go, Jim, after he asked his bracketology question.
It's a tough question,
So
guys.
true.
It was a hard-hitting question.
So true.
Which John wrote.
Yeah, it's true. I did. Okay. The wrap is on the other side. Don't go anywhere. It's
True.
John and
I did
Jim.
nothing.
All right, hey guys, lower mortgage rates are here, and smart homeowners are wiping out all their credit card debt with help from Loan Pronto. Hey guys, it's Schaefer. Right now, Loan Pronto has a cash out refinance rate of just 5.49%, which is a huge drop. So you can get refinanced now, get cash out of your home's equity to wipe out all those credit cards and other high interest loans. You can save hundreds every month with lower payments, or maybe you still have a mortgage rate in the threes. You can use Loan Pronto's Equity Express line of credit and just get the cash you need and leave your primary mortgage intact. Loan Pronto can get you $50, $100, even $200,000 in a matter of days. Bottom line is this: Loan Pronto has several options to help you erase debt and take control of your finances. Call today. You can even skip your next 2 mortgage payments. Call Loan Pronto now. Here is the number. Jot it down: 619 207 4336. 619-207-4336 or loanpronto.com. Again, 619-207-4336. Equal housing lender, NMLS 1661781, 5.49%, has 6.39% APR, subject to lender approval.
This update's brought to you by Indeed.com. Cactus League play today for the Padres. They beat the Kansas City Royals 6-3. Darvish made a spring training debut. It was a worthwhile spring training debut for him. Scintillating. 2 innings, no runs, 3 strikeouts. First pitch, Matt Waldron expected to start for the Padres, and the Aztecs take on San Jose State tonight. 8 p.m. tip-off, 7 p.m. pregame. Games at Viejas Arena. You can listen to that game right here with Uncle Teddy on the call on San Diego Sports 760. Need to hire? You need Indeed. Their end-to-end solution helps you attract, interview, and hire candidates all year round. Schedule and conduct virtual interviews right from your Indeed dashboard. Learn more by visiting Indeed.com/credit.
All right, stay tuned. In about 10 minutes, we'll let you know how to win tickets to see Santana and the Counting Crows, the Oneness Tour, North Island Credit Union Amphitheater, August 30th. Tickets and info at livenation.com. Mark Zeigler covers the Aztecs, of course, for the UT. He'll join us coming up at 5 p.m. Right now, let's get to this.
I should have guessed. Is tonight a must-win game for the Aztecs?
Why are you looking at me?
Yeah, you can't lose at home to San Jose State. Come on, guys. It's a must-win game. Easy.
Yeah, I mean, these are the games that it's not like quad 1 losses. You don't have near the repercussions
Like the
than
must-win-
quad 4 losses.
The must-win saying isn't
Mhm.
always applied to like, oh, it's a must-win or go home type of situation.
Sure.
It's applied 100% to tonight's game. You lose at home where you are perfect to San Jose State, one of the bottom teams in your conference. And what did you just say that they were? It's quad 4.
Quad 4, yeah.
Quad 4 game. And you're trying to get as high as maybe a 3 seed or 4 seed. Like, no.
Right.
Tonight's a must-win game.
Here's the thing. Under Brian Dutcher, now this system's only been around for 4 or 5 years. They traditionally are near perfect against teams that are, I said near perfect, against teams that are metrically quad 3 or quad 4. Now, you don't have to go back that far, though, to remember San Jose State at Viejas against an amazing team. When Malachi Flynn hit a 3 at the buzzer, down 2, right? Down 1 or 2 to bail out the Aztecs when they went 30-2, and they were 30-1 in the regular season. So there are no gimmies. Look at what happened to New Mexico against Air Force this weekend. They lost at home. So you need to be, up for this game, but you have to win this game as well. Next question.
Do you like the new uniforms that the San Diego Wave unveiled today?
They're fantastic. I think they're fantastic. Their road jerseys are just all pink with a little design on it, but their home jerseys, they're really good. I thought they nailed it, hit it out of the park. They kind of reminded me of like a little, like the vibe of it was like a Saved by the Bell, like kind of vibe, like the color scheme, but I thought they're great.
Yeah, I like them. I do. I mean, I think it's colorful. I think they were unique. I think it carves out a little bit of a lane. Like I compare it to, and we talked about this, like SDFC has to do something from like a logo and mark perspective to like cut through.
They have a lot of work to do, I think.
Right?
A lot of work to do.
And, it's not easy. It's not an easy space to be successful in. But yes, I think these uniforms probably look better than the ones that they were wearing. I mean, the ones they were wearing previously were pretty bland.
Yeah, people were kind of wondering, like, guys, what's going on here? Like, where's that design, that
Right.
cool design jersey?
Boom.
Took
here
a
it
couple
is.
years, but their first attempt at a redesign, I thought they knocked it out of the
Yeah,
park.
I think it's good.
Isn't the logo kind of overrated considering the jerseys 90% just
Maybe.
advertisements?
Maybe. You're saying it's more about like the look than it is just the logo?
Well, when I look at it, the logo doesn't stick out. The first thing I see is Kaiser Permanente, and the second thing I see is Alley. The last thing I see is the logo.
Well, yeah, that's a soccer thing. I mean,
Yeah.
Well, I know that's what I'm saying. Though,
Yeah.
is the logo really that important if they
It is.
emphasize
It is
the
because if you
sponsors
buy
more
it
than
on
the logo?
Yeah, because let's say you buy a hat,
Buy a
or a
shirt.
t-shirt.
Yeah,
That's what I would say. But no, it's a fair point. It's a fair
the
point.
the logos, it's important,
It's
even though it's not
important.
the biggest thing on. I mean, is the logo always the biggest thing sometimes on a jersey?
No. Next question.
Should the NCAA expand the tournament beyond the 68 teams?
Stop it. Next question. No.
Here's the one. Okay, hear me out.
No, I'm not hearing you out.
Hear me out.
This
One
is-
second. One
No.
second. Hear me out.
Time's up.
The one thing I would do if I was doing something
Oh, jeez.
is I would, and people have talked about this. Yeah, I just don't need to see the playing round 16 versus 16. We had someone say that yesterday, and I agree. I'd rather see 4 quote unquote playing at large games like Butler, Seton Hall, bad example, or like Nevada against Texas A&M. I'd rather see big teams play each other the first 2 days of the tournament than Lehigh play Merrimack. Next question.
Will the Padres win a game against the Dodgers in Korea?
I thought you were going to say, will the Padres win a game
Don't
versus
make
the
me-
Dodgers?
Well, they will.
And
Ever again.
ever again.
Will they win one of 2 or more in Korea?
You see Shohei hit a home run today?
Yeah, I did.
Still sucks.
He does.
The whole situation.
Okay, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, sure. They need it.
They need a split.
They need a split.
They need a split. I like that.
It'd be nice to get a split in Korea. It'd be nice. It'd be nice to get a split because, as Brent makes the point of, like, you get your ass kicked in your first 2 games of the season, and oh, by the way, FanFest is that Sunday when everybody's already jet lagged from the team. You're like,
I just think it would be nice to.
interesting timing.
I think it would be nice to, like, with the tension on you in a profile series like that in another part of the world, play well. You know, like,
Yeah.
nobody wants to see the Padres lose back-to-back games that aren't competitive. Like, you don't want to see them go down 4-0 in the first inning both days and, only score 2 runs in the series. Like, it would be nice if they're competitive. It would be nice if they win one of the games. It's not the end all be all. Of course not. Whether they win 2 or lose 2 or split, it doesn't determine anything. I would just like to see them play well on that stage. I'm sure it means something to the organization to be put in that spot, to travel the way they're going to be asked to travel. It'd be nice if they, show up and play well.
And from a selfish standpoint, you hope that, like, Ha-Seong Kim performs well
Yeah,
because
absolutely.
he's going to be the superstar of superstars in Korea.
Mm-hmm.
He already is. Have you seen the commercials?
Oh,
yet?
I know.
Yeah,
It
yeah.
is. It is a Ha-Seong Kim PR campaign 101 perfected to a T. He is the man. He is the face of the Padres organization in South Korea. So, with all the star power that will be there, yeah, you hope they play well. You hope they win a game. Win 2 games would be awesome. But you want them to play well, and it will be on national television, even though it'll be at 3 a.m. in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
And whenever this game is, you watch it, you want to see the Padres do well. Because the last time they faced the Dodgers, it was spring training 14-1. I know it doesn't matter. Who cares? But every time they face the Dodgers in the regular season, their ass kicked. So it'd be nice to, like, maybe have a little bit of fight.
Yeah, I mean, well, the last time anything mattered real against the Dodgers, the Padres won the series. Like, the last real series they played against the Dodgers was more, was very meaningful in the 2022 postseason. This is nothing near that. I don't care if you go 0-2 or 2-0, but I just want to see him play well. Nobody needs to see, it's the first inning and the Padres are trailing by 4 runs both of the days. And Shohei Ohtani is, homered in the first couple of innings both of the days. You just want to see them play well. If they lose the games, they lose the games. I just don't need to see 9-0 games. I'd prefer, if they're going to lose, hopefully it's a competitive 6-5 game that has some intrigue across 3 hours, since we're going to be watching at 3 a.m.
And the savior Jackson Merrill does well as well.
Yes, that would be nice.
Does well.
As well. I agree.
So,
I do. I do.
All
right,
nice.
Mark Zeigler is going to join us coming up at 5 p.m. You need to call right now if you want a chance to win 2 free tickets to see Santana with the Counting Crows.
Oh, boy.
The Oneness Tour, North Island Credit Union Amphitheater, August 30th. Tickets and info at livenation.com. Here's the number to call. Again, 2 free tickets, Santana and Counting Crows. 877-767-4760. That's the number to call. There's a great prize. Again, 2 free tickets, Santana and Counting Crows. Here's the number. Call right now if you want them. First 2 callers will be our contestants for trivia. 877-767-4760. Call right now. Mark Zeigler gets us ready for tonight. Second to last Aztec game at home this year. Tonight at 8 p.m. Aztecs and Spartans at 8 p.m. Pregame coverage will begin at 7. Call right now. 877-767-4760. That's next. All right, Mark Zeigler from the UT will join us. We'll talk about the Aztecs and Spartans tonight at 5 p.m. Trainwreck Radio is next. All right, Mark Zeigler will join us in about 15 minutes. We'll talk about tonight, second to last home game of the regular season for the Aztecs at 8 p.m. You can hear it on San Diego Sports 760. Pregame coverage will begin at 7. Shohei Ohtani, we touched on this briefly.
What? What about him?
Well, his first at bat, he struck out looking, and people were questioning the $700 million deal. But he rebounded to then homer in his final at bat, a 2-run shot into the left field stands. You know what that earned? The loudest cheers of the day in Glendale, per the AP.
Oh my gosh.
So Ohtani was 1 for 3 strikeout, GIDP, and a home run.
The crowd was just deferring their cheers until the end of the game.
Ooh, I like that.
Bum.
Now, he was playing his first game since undergoing right elbow surgery last September.
Yeah, that's great. Now, don't take this the wrong way for what I'm about to say.
But you don't care.
1, I don't care. 2, the show that is the Shohei Ohtani experience right now with the media and
first story at MLB.com,
and the hype
ESPN,
and everything. Don't get me wrong. Would I want Shohei Ohtani here in San Diego on the Padres? Abso-freaking-lutely. But, and it sucks he's at the Dodgers, but just that circus, it's not like I'm glad the circus isn't here. I wish Ohtani was here, but I'm glad that circus that is following Ohtani around. I mean, you had people in the LA Times saying it's like the freaking Beatles. I mean, have you seen their spring training and their fan fest so far? It was like,
I mean, they didn't even sell out this game, by the way.
Well, I'm not talking about the fans. I'm talking about the media.
The media. No, but I'm talking about the fans. I'd like to think that if you sign with the Padres, you're selling out games in Peoria.
Well, okay, yes, but that's what I'm talking about.
Okay.
I'm talking about the pure media following circus for Shohei Ohtani.
That's fair.
It would have been annoying as hell here.
That's fair. This is a direct quote from Ohtani. I definitely felt the energy of the crowd and the fans. I really appreciate it. I'm really happy I was able to make it back on time and play in front of the fans. Shohei Ohtani today, returning to the field in Glendale. All right, Mark Zeigler will join us in about 10 minutes. Right now, let's get to this.
All right, 3 questions, 2 contestants, 1 lifeline. Today's 2 contestants, we have Charlie and Santo. Charlie, you called in first, so you have your choice of Jim or John. Who do you want to go with?
John, please.
All right, so Charlie and John.
Didn't take Brent's trick there.
That's interesting because he went with me first,
Yeah,
right?
Charlie gets John.
Yep.
Santo gets me. Okay, you good, Santo?
Yes,
That
sir.
means you have Jim.
Yeah. All right, Brent. What's today's question of the day?
All right, guys, I don't know if you saw yesterday, there's like pretty much every running back in the NFL is not going to get franchise tagged, from Saquon to Tony Pollard and to Derrick Henry and more.
Is there beside, like, okay, Christian McCaffrey, but other than him, is there any running back in the NFL that's would get like a big time contract?
Not anymore.
Yeah, I just
For
think
what
it's
their ages
devalued.
are,
Yeah, I
yeah.
just think it's
Yeah.
devalued the position. Yeah.
If Derrick Henry is 5 years younger, he would.
Yeah,
but-
exactly.
All right, so today's question, name the 8 running backs with the most carries in the NFL last year. So we want the top 8 running backs with the most carries in the league last year.
All right, Santo, you're up first. What's your first guess? You do have a lifeline if you choose to use it.
McCaffrey.
Christian McCaffrey
Christian McCaffrey, top 8.
on the list. Number 1, I want to say, right?
No.
Ooh.
Healthy all year long, Jim.
Until the Super Bowl. He fumbled the ball in the first drive and cost the Niners points. And
Wait, was he not healthy in the Super Bowl?
no, he was healthy in the Super
Okay.
Bowl. I'm saying he fumbled in the Super Bowl.
Yeah, that wasn't good.
He's fumbled only. Never mind.
All 3 times all year.
Yeah, shut up.
Enough of those fuzzy memories.
Stop it.
Charlie.
Stop. Charlie, you're up next. What's your first guess? You do have a lifeline if you choose to use it.
Oh, I'll go for the other great name that get a big contract 5 years ago, Derrick Henry.
Derrick Henry.
Derrick Henry.
On the list.
Okay.
Here we go. Santo, back to you. Your second guess. You do have a lifeline if you choose to use it.
Pacheco.
Isaiah
Pacheco.
Pacheco.
He was kind of a split back, wasn't he?
Oh, not really a split back, but he's.
Okay, well, he wasn't top 8 in carries.
No, it wasn't. Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
All righty. So we're going back to Charlie. Charlie, what's your second guess? You do have a lifeline if you choose to use it.
How about Travis Etienne?
Travis Etienne.
Etienne. Wow.
Wow. All right. Good job, Charlie. Santo, you're going to need this to stay in the game. Your third and final guess. You do have a lifeline still. What do you got?
That's the good news. You got Jim Russell.
Barkley. Saquon.
Saquon Barkley on the list. All right, Charlie, you could walk it off right here with the correct answer. You do have your lifeline, which is John, if you choose to use it. What do you got?
Najee Harris on the list.
Najee Harris.
You could.
Whoa! He could have turned to me. I would have said Emmitt Smith. I don't know where I would have gone. So he did it alone without help. Where would you have turned?
Let's see here.
There's only 3 more on the list.
I know.
man.
I'm like blanking hard on his name, and I see him. He was on the Miami Dolphins. Raheem Mostert.
Mostert on the list?
No.
Oh my gosh, Jim.
He had yards, but not as many carries. All right.
No, all the running backs had yards this year.
Oh, John.
Who's on the list?
All right, we're missing, was it Rashad White,
Oh yeah, Rashad White.
Rashad White. Yeah.
Joe Mixon,
Oh, yeah.
and I even mentioned his name, Tony Pollard.
Tony Pollard. Yeah.
Pollard.
No, I may have guessed that because he said
3 very mid players.
Pacheco is like around 20th.
20th in carries.
Jeez.
He only had 205.
Interesting.
Oh, all right.
Christian McCaffrey was what?
Second.
Number 2.
Henry was number
Second.
1.
Fitting.
I see a theme developing.
Don't punch me.
Oh,
All right. Congratulations to who won? Santo? Charlie.
Charlie won.
Congratulations, Charlie. You've won a pair of tickets to see Santana and Counting Crows in their Oneness Tour, the North Island Credit Union Amphitheater, August 30th. Tickets and info at livenation.com. Have you blacked it all out? Have you gotten past the phase of anger and thinking about it and replaying it in your mind? You're probably past that point. Seriously?
No, I am. I don't consume any 49ers content now. Like right now. Nothing.
Guys,
No,
just stay
They're
away.
dead to you.
just stay away as far as possible. And once the season starts up next year,
Well, you're not
then
going
I-
to pay attention maybe to the draft or the combine? Or
no,
anything?
I will, but and like free agency and stuff. But
Yeah.
like once the season starts up again next year, I will be the living embodiment of the "here we go again" meme.
Well, yeah, exactly. You're going to be back on board.
Yeah, I will.
Of course you will be.
And it will suck, and I hate it because they're not going to win because they never do.
Oh, yeah, they've only won 5.
5, not in my like fandom life.
True, but the Super Bowl's only been around for 58 years. They've won like 10% of them, but not with you. Unfortunately,
You thought I was doom and gloom before.
Oh my god!
Wait till this upcoming
You were-
season with the Niners.
Yeah. Oh, great. Stay tuned.
Stay tuned.
Make sure to tune in to Jon and Jim throughout the NFL season. All right, Mark Zeigler is going to join us coming up on the other side. San Diego
Listen to
State.
Jim bitch and moan about his stupid team.
Yeah, tune in September 1st. Mark Zeigler from the UT. Aztecs getting ready for their second to last home game of the year. What's on the line for San Diego State between now and Selection Sunday in 19 days? Mark Zeigler does a great job covering the Aztecs. He will join us next. Don't go anywhere. It's Jon and Jim.
All right, this update is brought to you by Indeed.com. Padres Cactus League play today. They beat the Royals 6-3. Darvish made his spring training debut. Went 2 scoreless innings, striking out 3. Next up, they'll take on the White Sox tomorrow afternoon, 12:10 first pitch. Matt Waldron expected to start for the Padres. Aztecs, they take on San Jose State tonight at Viejas Arena, 8 p.m. tip time. 7 p.m. is when our pregame coverage starts. Of course, you can listen to that game right here on San Diego Sports 760. Need to hire? You need Indeed. Their end-to-end solution helps you attract, interview, and hire candidates all year round. Schedule and conduct virtual interviews right from your Indeed dashboard. Learn more by visiting Indeed.com/credit today.
All right, San Diego and Southern California, what's going on? Final hour of Jon and Jim. We will have your countdown to tip off at 7 p.m. outside Viejas Arena. Myself and Ben Fletcher. 8 o'clock tip, late start for San Diego State and San Jose State, but the second to last home game of the year for the Aztecs. It is always great to connect with Mark Zeigler, who does such a good job covering this team year in and year out for the San Diego Union Tribune. Back with us right now on Jon and Jim. So, Mark, I enjoyed what you wrote here within the last 24 hours on the rarity of San Diego State taking on a quote-unquote bad loss, which is easier said than done the way you laid it out. Of course, tonight is a game that they just have to find a way to win. It's a quote-unquote quad 4 game against the team in the lower division of the Mountain West. But what does it say about San Diego State that in this era, the net and the quad system, they've essentially avoided the bad loss?
Yeah, I mean, there's 2 components to metrics. One, obviously, is quality wins. That will get your metrics pumped up quickly. And the other is to avoid bad losses, because those are like anvils on your metrics, yank you down. I mean, a loss could yank you down 20, 30, 40 points. There's been some instances where it's been worse. So they're kind of equal. I mean, everyone wants to talk about, well, they went up and they won at Gonzaga. They beat all these teams at home. But really, the big thing is they don't take any stupid losses, and it's not just this year. It's the last 4 or 5, and if you go back to their history, they typically don't do it. Every now and then there's one, and it's funny because the coaches can name them all in one hand. They'll just start ticking them off. Oh, that Brown loss was awful. I still remember it like it was yesterday. And that's part of it too. They just don't want to have that feeling again.
Do you envision this team getting to that 4 seed line? Like, do you think that that they have a legitimate shot to do that here, or even maybe higher if they win out?
Don't think they'll go higher. I mean, they'd really have to win out, and a lot of things would have to happen for them to get to the 3. I think they're pretty solidly on the 4 if, and the big if, and the game for the rest of the season is not in the Mountain West tournament. It's not senior night against Boise, which I think they'll win. It's not tonight. It's at UNLV on Tuesday night. They kind of have to win that game. I think if they win that, they're a 4 seed. If they lose that, I could see them slipping down to a 5.
How big of a difference? Mark Zeigler with the UT is with us. We know they were a 5 a year ago, and they're shipped out of the region, and then they had their success. So summarize it. What would you say? I mean, how big is it? Being that 4, which could keep you in the region, so to speak, out west, being a 5, which could send you anywhere. Do you see it as significant as any difference in seeding, 4 to 5?
I mean, logically speaking, you'd think that a 4 is much better because you're going to stay out west. You're going to stay in your region, and you're not going to have to travel multiple time zones, or in the case of last year, across the country. But of course, they did it last year, and they went to the championship game. So maybe it doesn't matter. I will say this, though. Last year's team was much better equipped to winning away from Viejas Arena and maybe winning out of the region. This year's team has been a little frail on the road. Been okay in neutral court games and been really, really good at home. So I think the closer you can stay to home and the more familiarity you have, and both these places that they would go to in the West, Salt Lake City or Spokane, are places where Spokane they've been to this year, and Salt Lake City they've flown in the airport at least a couple times, once for BYU and once for Utah State. They kind of know what it looks like and what the deal is. And I think that just familiarity would help them a little bit. So I would say in the case of this year, it probably is a pretty big difference.
To follow up on that, obviously Salt Lake at elevation and Spokane is not. Correct me if I'm wrong. How much, like, if you could just pick your spot, if you're Brian Dutcher, forget about the opponent and the whatever, if you could pick your spot, is Spokane clearly ahead of Salt Lake? Just because A, elevation is a challenge. We always talk about it with San Diego State. And then B, you can't play your best players as many minutes at elevation, you would think.
Yeah, I mean, it goes both ways. If you look at elevation, you have to assume that the selection committee, you hope that they're smart enough and fair enough. They don't send another elevation team.
Right.
Say Colorado makes it. They wouldn't play Colorado State, someone from their own league. But you don't play another elevation team in elevation. That would be really unfair. Even if it was like a team out of the Big Sky, that regularly plays at elevation and you throw them in there with them. So assuming they don't do that, you're going to have much more familiarity and understanding of how to play at altitude than everyone else there. And so I think it would probably be a little bit of a benefit just because mentally you've been through it. Your players, probably have a little bit of confidence, having done it before. And some poor team, from Midwest or East Coast could just be like dying up there. But Spokane, there's something weird about Spokane. I mean, they're 4-1 all time in Spokane. They went there in 2014, won both games, got to the Sweet 16. They're 2-1 against Gonzaga up there. I think there's just sort of a feel that we own this town and we've been there this year already. But I think all things being equal, they probably would choose Salt Lake just because it's closer and easier for their fans.
Mm-hmm.
And they like to get as many fans as possible, and they'll get more to Salt Lake than Spokane. It's a really hard place to get to. Yes, it's in the time zone, but it's on the opposite end of the time zone.
Besides Jaden Ledee, who else has maybe even a close to a shot to overtake him for Mountain West Player of the Year, or is it pretty much Jaden's locked up right now?
Well, I think Great Osabor from Utah State will get some votes or consideration, at least, just because they're going to win the league, or at least they're going to be the number one seed, I think, unless complete disaster strikes them. And there's some people who vote, and I've considered voting this way in the past too. Best player in the best team. I certainly do that for Coach of the Year usually, and so I think he'll get some consideration for that. But what I think will happen is that Osabor will get Newcomer of the Year, and that will kind of be his consolation prize for not being Player of the Year. And Ledee is clearly the best player. I think everyone can agree on that. Just looking at the way teams have to defend him, the way he's been when he gets a fair whistle. And I think he's clearly the Mountain West Player of the Year. But, these things are crazy. You got media voting in one awards, and you have coaches voting in another, and coaches gets very political, and the media may not see things the same way coaches do. So we'll have to wait and see, but that's my expectation.
And what about being an All-American? I mean, to have him be an All-American, but not potentially the Mountain West Conference Player of the Year, that'd be a little weird. And also, if he happened to be an All-American, there's only been 3 in the history of the program. To have 2 in the last 4 years with Malachi and then potentially Jaden, like, that speaks volumes for this program, right?
Absolutely. And I think he will be an All-American. I don't know if he'll be a first-team All-American just because I don't think people from the East Coast know enough about him. Now, I sat next to Jeff Goodman at the Utah State game, and Jaden had an incredible game, even though he was really laboring from the altitude. But I mean, he was hitting shot after shot, and Jeff Goodman was really, really impressed. I mean, he's like, "Oh my gosh, this guy's good."
Yeah.
And I think but there's a lot of voters, and that's just one guy, and I don't think the rest of them have really seen him either in person. It's even more impressive in person when you see him play, or even on TV. So I think he'll probably be a second team All-American is my guess. But he'll be right there for that fifth spot. I'm going to vote him I have a vote for the AP All-American. I'm going to vote him first team, I think. But I don't know if enough people will.
His year is incredible. I mean, you just think about the way he's being defended and the success that he's had. And there's some things he does, Mark, and you see it up close and personal each and every game. But some of the recent moves or like decisions he makes against a double, the way he's able to dribble out of a double, like towards the top of the key, still get his shot off and like hit 18-foot jumpers, dribbling out of a double. Like, it's unbelievable some of the success he's having. He's seen everything defensively. Like, everything has been thrown at him, and he's still posting numbers every single game.
Yeah, and facing double teams is something really new to him. It's not like he's been a guy who averaged 12 and then 15 and then 20. And he faced doubles in the past. He hadn't faced any doubles. I mean, in his career.
Right.
And so all of a sudden he's facing them. And so he has to do 4 or 5 years worth of work and gain that kind of experience in one season. And you've seen him do it. He's a bright player. He's really cerebral. He watches a ton of film. And so you've seen him do it, and he's improved. He's still not great at it, but he's a lot better than he was earlier in the season. And now it's becoming a lot harder to double him, and teams are not doubling him as well. The other thing San Diego State's doing is putting him more in the middle of the floor where you really can't double. And you're starting to see his jump shot much more than we did maybe in January, where it was pretty much, low block, trying to power through people, stepping out and just shooting over people. And they look like they're tough shots, but they're all going in right now. He's shooting a really high percentage. And so, he's kind of rounded into the player that is almost unstoppable at this point.
I know that we have a lot, well, maybe, hopefully, a lot of basketball left to still be played with the rest of the regular season, the Mountain West Conference tournament, hopefully a deep run in the NCAA tournament. But have you put any thought to potentially who could be returning next year on this team?
It's going to be really interesting. So obviously, Jaden's gone, Tramel's gone, J Powell's gone, and then you start looking at, okay, so now you've got Reese Waters. Is he going to come back? He's got another year. He's kind of indicated when he came he wanted to stay for 2 years, kind of like Matt Bradley did. I think he will stay. I think he's happy, but you just don't know. I mean, they're 20-year-old kids. There's a lot of pressures on them. There's more pressures, external pressures on them than ever before. There's money, there's everything. But I think he doesn't want to have another change, and I think he'll stay. So, okay, you assume he stays. Now the two big questions are Lamont Butler and Micah Parrish. Each have a COVID year. I don't know. I mean, I could see both of them going both ways. I'm really 50-50 on it. I don't have a feel. Maybe they don't have a feel because, when you're a player, like we as fans or media love to speculate on what this guy might do or this guy might do. The reason they're good players is they're so single-minded. They're so focused. They focus on one thing, and that's what is in front of them right now. And they don't look too far ahead. And that's made them good players. So I don't know if they've even really thought about it at this point. But I can see both of them leaving. I can see both of them staying. I can see one of them leaving. But that's going to be the big question. It's something that's going to have to be sorted out pretty quickly because, if you go a round or two in the NCAA tournament, the portal officially opens on the 18th, the day after Selection Sunday. And you're going to either be a week or 2 weeks behind or 3 weeks if you go to the Final Four. And so I think whenever they finish their season, it's going to have to be a very quick decision with both those guys, and they got to figure out if they got to move on and get help to replace them.
Mark, before you go, you wrote a little bit about this, and I was thinking about this recently too. I mean, yes, San Diego State's a heavy favorite. Yes, San Jose State has really struggled this year, which to me is somewhat surprising after watching them in the first game at San Jose State. I mean, they have real offensive talent, and we saw it in that first game. But you had that close game where Jay Powell made a great play late. Otherwise, who knows what happens? You go back a few years, the Team Jim reference with Malachi Flynn as an All-American. I mean, they needed Malachi's incredible shot to win the game. If he doesn't hit that shot, they would have lost that game to San Jose State. What is it about? I mean, the Spartans, again, it looks like this team is capable. They've really struggled on the road, but I mean, they've given San Diego State some games here in recent years.
Yeah, and all you got to do is look at what Air Force did at the pit. I mean,
Right.
I think if you were just pulling back and looking at it logically, you would have said there's no way. I mean, there's just no way they're going to have any chance there. And sure enough, they pull off a win. And I could see the same thing happening, anywhere with any team. It's just that's the nature of college basketball now. That's the nature of college kids. And I think you also have to understand something else is that I think the transfer portal and NIL and now two-time transfers have really, really leveled the playing field throughout Division I, because it used to be that all the best players would aggregate on the blue blood teams, and it was just a prestige thing. And the guys who were numbers 9 through 13 on blue bloods were all really good. Well, now those guys 9 through 13 are going, wait a minute, I can get money somewhere else. The blue bloods thinking, well, why are we paying them? They're just sitting on the bench. We don't really need them. We'll just get somebody else next year. And they're going somewhere else to play. And so those guys are good players. And so there's a lot more talent that's spread out evenly, and everybody has somebody. And so I just think that, it's really that on any given night cliche, it really holds true in college basketball right now. You've seen it all season. I mean, even the top 10 teams really, the stat is staggering how much more often they're losing on the road to unranked opposition this year than in the past. I mean, it's double or triple than it is in the past. And so I think that trickles all the way down. And so could San Jose State pull off an upset? 100% they could. And that's what makes San Diego State's record in these games that much more impressive.
Well said. Mark, always appreciate it. I'll see you at Viejas later on tonight. Thanks for hopping on.
Yeah, no problem. I'll talk to you guys.
All right. Always appreciate it. Mark Zeigler, great writer, reporter for the UT covering San Diego State men's basketball. Okay. So tonight, 7 p.m., myself, Ben Fletcher, you'll be watching.
Yeah.
With Aaron.
Dude, it was funny because the other night, was it Fresno State?
The big win?
No, I forget what game I was watching. I think it might have been Fresno. And then the game ended, and it was like right away after that, another game started, and I was like, dang, it's late. It was like 8 o'clock. It's like 8:15.
Oh, with the game after San Diego State, Fresno State?
But with Fresno State was
no, it was the game before. It was the Utah State game.
Okay. That was
they
the game
played
I
at
was
6 o'clock Pacific. Then there was a game on at 8 o'clock
That's right.
Pacific.
I was like, oh man, this is late.
Yeah. So you're Mr. 35-year-old who watches movies at midnight, can't stay up till 8?
I don't watch movies at midnight anymore.
You don't? What time do you go to sleep? Midnight.
Midnight.
Yeah. What time does Aaron go to sleep? 7?
She goes to sleep like she tries to go to sleep. If it was up to her, she'd go to bed at 10 o'clock every night.
Mm-hmm. Well, who's it up to?
What I meant is like we get in bed and we watch TV, Great British Baking Show.
What?
The Great British Baking Show.
Oh, on like phones or whatever? Or you watch on TV? We don't have a TV in our room.
You don't?
And that doesn't put you to sleep?
That's it does. It's like such a soothing, comforting, like just wholesome show that you don't really have to, be invested in. You just can watch, and then you can pick up another episode, and you're like, oh, that person got eliminated, and it's like, oh, it's whatever.
So it just goes on and on and on.
It's great. It's that's why it's the Great British Baking Show. It's awesome. Love that show. But yeah, we're in bed, and she watches a couple episodes, and then she goes to sleep around like 10:30ish, 10:45, and then I'm up on my phone till probably like midnight or so, 12:30.
I forget what we were asking.
I used to stay up like ungodly hours of the night. It was bad, like 2, 3, 3:30 in the morning, and I wouldn't go to bed till then. Now it's like I can't even think about staying up that late.
Bro, what time are you going to sleep these days?
11, anywhere between 11 12:30.
Didn't you used to go to sleep at like 2 in the morning?
Oh, I'd go later than that, but now Peanut could wake me up at 7:30, so I can't go to bed at 4 o'clock and then have her wake me up at 7.
It's a new world, guys.
And Bentley is the same way. He is programmed that he has to eat food at like 8:30.
It's almost like he's a dog.
I know.
Yeah.
And so he'll wake up, he'll get by the door, he'll sit there and he'll look at us, and then he'll slowly start making like the little noises.
Yeah.
And then he'll like occasionally like have like a mini bark before we.
And this is at 8:30?
Like 7:45.
You're lucky. There's
7:30.
I feel like there's dogs waking people up at like 5:20 in the morning.
True. Well, Aaron did a good job of making sure that it's not like 5:20 in the morning.
She used to do that when she was super little. Now she sleeps in longer than I do.
Padres won today. Big Cactus League win. They were 1-4. They trailed early, came all the way back to win at 6-3. That's Jim's clap. I don't know why. Oscar Mercado hit 2 home runs. Jackson Merrill apparently dazzled. He went 0 for 2, but he dazzled.
Amazing walk.
Did he walk in this game as well?
Amazing plate discipline,
good
John.
Plate discipline walk. He also played center field for the first time and made a really nice play on a ball. Now he just kind of ranged over and caught it. He had 2 balls hit to him. He caught both of them. So Jackson Merrill now being tested out in center field. He's already played left field. He was 0 for 2 with a walk today.
I'm seeing now people being impressed by his hard contact the other way.
He has hit the ball the other way a lot.
Even though it's an out.
Right, he did. Right, he lined out today on a good play by the left fielder.
Just the hard.
I know.
We're putting this guy on the biggest pedestal. We need to slow it down. And by we, I mean you know who out there.
Yeah, that's just a general baseball thing of, he's 0 for 6, but he hit the ball.
Man, he's hitting it hard.
Yeah.
He is.
The guy has to keep the confidence up.
Oh, the confidence level of this kid through the roof with this contact rate.
The issue with spring training is everything we're saying right now.
Yep.
Because it is spring training. And even when you get 2 at-bats, your second at-bat sometimes is against someone that isn't even like a starting pitcher.
Yeah.
And the starting pitcher you're facing, for example, Joe Musgrove, his first couple of starts, could say, well, I'm working on a new pitch, or I'm trying to make my way back from being injured a year ago. Like you're not seeing in spring training, correct me if I'm wrong here, you're not seeing anything in spring training that truly resembles a major league game.
No.
Some of the same names are in there.
Some stuff you do.
But they're not throwing with max exertion.
No.
They're not throwing their full complement of pitches.
You think Manny's out there hustling hard down the line? No.
I don't know.
But,
I mean,
but that's also to be said about almost every regular
should
player.
be.
Not
And remember,
just
Tatis
him.
was basically criticized in 2019 because he was going first to third on everything and stealing bases and tagging up.
And anybody out there is like, Jim's the guy that says Manny doesn't hustle. Hey, bro, no, I'm actually a proponent of how Manny doesn't hustle when he doesn't have to, because he's the type of guy that makes sure that his body is ready to go for 162 rather than full 100% on every play, potentially getting injured.
Right. Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah.
But again, it is spring, and the bit of everything matters is just a bit.
Mm-hmm.
And when we talk about Joe Musgrove and his 2 outings, we're not talking about necessarily the results, more so the future of Joe Musgrove coming off of an injury with his shoulder.
Mm-hmm.
Like, can he be the guy that they need him to be for a full season coming off of an injury?
I think that's a fair question.
Same thing with Yu Darvish. Yu Darvish today, 2 innings, 0 runs, 3 strikeouts. He dazzled in his spring training debut. What was the exact word that I saw here? It was, his spring training debut was worthwhile.
Mm-hmm. I agree. He went 2 scoreless innings.
The thing we talk about with Yu Darvish is about the future, with him also coming off of an injury, and how much this team is going to be relying on him and need him to be that close to all-star frontline guy that he was in 2022 with this team. They need those 2 things from Yu Darvish and Joe Musgrove. So we talk about it whenever they're on the mound and pitch.
Did you know Jackson Merrill swiped a bag today?
What?
Yeah. Showed off those wheels.
Woo!
Swiped a bag.
30-30 season.
Played center. Caught a ball.
Did you see the break he made to his right on the ball?
It was
hitting
he
left
broke.
center.
He moved.
Dude,
and caught
that
it.
throw in from center field to
again. Are we setting it up? Are we being fair to Jackson Merrill? Is the question.
Well, I don't know if we are, because I don't think we are, because it's not fair to put this much hype on this kid just yet for him being in a new position and not really. I know he's the number 2 ranked prospect in the organization, but it's not like he came off of a minor league season where he hit 330 and had a 920 OPS. If he did that, then it might be a little different. You're like, this kid's tearing the cover off the ball in the minors.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe he is ready. Maybe he is ready to go. But when you just look at the numbers, and the numbers speak for themselves, and I know his approach is really good. The mindset we talked about the other day, loved hearing what he had to say. You love to hear that type of mindset from such a young player, but it also has to translate on the field. You can say it all you want, but it has to translate on the field in the batter's box. If he doesn't hit, that's going to be a problem. It all is dependent on if he can hit. The outfield stuff, the defense, like, I think
it's almost not even a story anymore.
It's not. We can live with it. If he doesn't hit, you got problems.
Yeah, that's the issue. I agree with you. All right. Do we have an all-time NBA rant last night?
We had.
Is it an all-timer?
We had to. I don't think it will be remembered and like played over and over and over for the
we
rest
had a rant.
of life, but it was a good rant.
Okay, so we'll share a rant with you. On the other side, we have Jim's back page still ahead. 7:00 countdown to tip-off Aztecs and Spartans. This is Jon and Jim.
.com. Padres Cactus League spring training today. Beat the Royals 6-3. You Darvish went 2 scoreless innings, 3 strikeouts in his Cactus League debut. Padres will take on the White Sox tomorrow as Matt Waldron's expected to start for the Padres. And the Aztecs, they take on San Jose State tonight at Viejas Arena. 7 p.m. is when our pregame coverage starts. 8 p.m. tip-off right here on San Diego Sports 760. Need to hire? You need Indeed. Their end-to-end helps you attract, interview, and hire candidates all year round. Schedule and conduct virtual interviews right from your Indeed dashboard. Learn more by visiting Indeed.com/credit.
So the NBA is going on,
That would be correct,
right?
John.
Wasn't there like a
All-Star game?
Well, there was the All-Star game, and then, by the way, I'm watching the highlights last night because we're about to play something for Monty Williams, Pistons head coach. He was paid a fortune of money. They've got Malachi Flynn right now. Malachi Flynn. Did you see the highlights for Malachi Flynn last night?
Yeah, he dove
He's
into
done everything.
Yeah, he dove into a player's leg. Was that him?
I don't think
I'm
so.
talking about the end of the game, which then resulted in the Monty Williams
Yeah.
rant that we'll
So
be
anyway,
hearing.
Malachi Flynn. I was watching the highlights, and then I saw at ESPN.com like some all-time bad officiating gaffe at the end of the game. I
Dude.
don't know what happened.
Okay, the Knicks were down by a point to the Pistons.
Okay.
About 30 seconds left in the
Mhm.
game. And it's just hectic. Jalen Brunson misses a 3, rebound by the Pistons. They throw it away. The Knicks get the ball back. They miss it. Pistons get the ball. They throw it up the court. Guy has the ball. He's dribbling. Knicks player dives into this Pistons player's leg. The ball gets fumbled around to a Knicks player. Knicks player throws another basket to Josh Hart, and he lays it in, gets fouled and won with like 2 or 3 seconds left in the game. And the Knicks end up winning 113-111.
Mm-hmm.
And Monty Williams lost his mind after the game because if you watch the replay back, clearly the Pistons player gets like undercut by a Knicks player with a ref standing right there. And then another ref on the baseline happens to call a weak and one that, caught. I mean, even if he didn't call foul, that he still made the layup. But anyway, this was Monty Williams after the game. And by the way, this isn't like the first time that a head coach this year has eviscerated these horrific refs. And this was the latest with Monty Williams.
Where's the New York media now? The absolute worst call of the season. No call. And enough's enough. We've done it the right way. We've called the league. We've sent in clips. We're sick of hearing the same stuff over and over again. We had a chance to win the game, and the guy dove into Asar's legs, and there was a no call. That's an abomination. You cannot miss that in an NBA game, period. And I'm tired of talking about it. I'm tired of our guys asking me, what more can we do, coach? That situation is exhibit A to what we've been dealing with all season long, and enough's enough. You cannot dive into a guy's legs in a big-time game like that and there be a no call. It's ridiculous, and we're tired of it. We just want a fair game called, period. And I got nothing else to say. We want a fair game, and that was not fair. I'm done.
I think that's actually fair. I hope he's not fined for that because the NBA then put out a statement saying that they did miss the foul. So what he's saying is accurate. The NBA agrees with what he said. The foul was missed.
No,
he says the foul was missed. He didn't go off the deep end.
Now, what would you rather have? Because that's something that like MLB would never do. They would never go, oh yeah, we screwed up that call, our bad. Would you rather just have them take it to their grave of, nope, we made the right call? Or would you rather have them come out and be like, yeah, we screwed up, our bad, sorry?
I would like there to be, I know there is a challenge call in the NBA.
But on non-calls?
You only get one.
I know you only get one.
And you get it on non-calls?
No. There should be an additional type of challenge because, dude, I know the NBA referees are getting worse and worse. There's only a few handful left that are competent and good, but the amount of referees that are just god awful,
right,
It's too much. This is the NBA. In college,
There's hundreds of teams.
I guess you can, I guess, somewhat defend it. But in the NBA, $1 billion organization.
Oh, yeah, bigger than that.
Multi-billion dollars. And you have the incompetence of some of these refs costing, teams wins and also playing a major factor into like the betting, avenue of sport now.
Yeah, it's not good.
It is just god awful that some of these people and players, are being affected by the incompetence of these refs.
I think it's kind of a joke too that if you go back like 3 or 4 years to, I don't remember who it was. It was the Warriors series where the guy shot the 3 and he went to box him out, but he went under his legs. Remember? And then they had the big rule change about how you're not allowed to undercut the guy.
It was Zaza Pachulia.
They made such an emphasis out of that, but then here we have players diving at another player's knee, and we're just gonna let it go. And I'm not saying it's intentional or anything, but still, he's still diving at their knees. You'd think that they'd be more concerned about player safety.
How about this amazing note? This game was supposed to be played in Detroit. The NBA moved it because the Knicks made the in-season tournament quarterfinals and lost a home game. And whatever the mechanism was, they were one home game short through the in-season tournament, and the NBA moved the game from Detroit to New York, and then it ends like this. Now, again, the Pistons aren't exactly the, 73-9 Warriors this year.
Well, that would make me even worse, or even madder, though, if I'm Monty Williams.
Because they can't win.
Well, exactly. We're only going to have, maybe 11 or 12 wins all year. Yeah. It's just like, and then you're going to take away, a legit one from us.
Well, the NBA, there are a lot of players. Well, there's certain players. I won't say a lot of players. There are certain players that have, I don't know, just the way that they play have brainwashed these referees on how they call games.
So star treatment.
Beyond starch. I mean, I would say a lot of the European players. I would say, obviously, LeBron. The top of the list to me is Luka, as far as, and then, who else? Like Kyrie. There's a lot of players out there that will foul baiters.
So are they gaming the system?
Yeah, they're gaming the system.
Like James Harden.
Harden, thank you. He is the poster child of that.
So what do you do? So what do you do about it? You know what I mean? Like what seriously can you just not call fouls? Well, but then you get yourself in a situation where you're slowing the game down.
That's on the players, because the players they're playing this way, and if the referees don't call the fouls, then it's just like, what's a foul then? Right. And if they do call the fouls, it makes the games literally unwatchable.
Right.
It's just a matter of the refs having to enforce it. It's just like when they had I say it past tense like they don't have it anymore, but when they had the flopping problem where they're like, hey, if you get caught flopping X amount of times, you're going to get a fine. But they don't ever fine anybody. They did the whole, I'm going to draw the line in the sand. Don't cross it. Yeah. Hey, I told you don't cross that line. Here, I'm going to draw it again. Don't cross that. And they're just keep crossing it because the NBA doesn't enforce anything.
I go back to like Ken Pomeroy said it before. I've heard Brian Dutcher say it a ton. It's a tough game to officiate.
It is.
It's a really tough game to officiate. Of course, there's egregious examples of bad calls. But the truth is, there are a lot of issues with like the NBA. They're so talented. They're so fast. They're so good. They're so physical that you can see how it can become problematic. One of those things. I mean, all these sports are like this. I mean, baseball, we complain about strike zones. Football, we complain about hold calls. Basketball, we complain about non-calls. Yeah. I mean, all of the sports are like this. And I think maybe the hardest is the NBA, the up and down action of it.
The skill level of these players. They're creating, I mean, the defense has no wiggle room at all. None. If you are a young player and you're trying to play hard defense, you're screwed. Good luck. If I'm just a young player in the NBA and I'm going up against like Luka,
no shot.
I got no shot.
Everything's a foul.
The only chance I have is if he misses a step back three, which he rarely does because that's one of his like signature shots. But if he drives on me or he's running downhill, I'm gonna they're gonna call a foul on me.
Right.
So that's why basketball, I think you watch it and you're like, the casual fan, like, this is stupid.
Well, I read an article today on ESPN. They were talking about how much further the no defense and scoring 160 points a game is going to go before the NBA steps in. Is like, hey, we need to rework some of these rules here a little bit to bring defense back into the league because nobody wants to watch a 161 to 160
fine line
game.
Yeah, nobody wants to watch 88 84 either, which they had. I mean, it's like, can you middle that without making it too far one way or the other?
What was the final score of Game 6 in Utah versus with the Jordan shot? It was like
in the 80s.
It was in the 80s. I think it was like 88, 86 or something.
Which again makes some more sense because you're playing for everything. So you'd like to think the level of defense is legitimately good.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, you never see that today.
I'm all for, the skill level and the players making like
87, 86.
tough
Amazing
shots.
Mm-hmm.
But you can also, when you watch a game, what's a BS bait foul and what's not. You can tell, like when a player is like just driving down the lane, throwing their hands up in the air, flopping, foul, because they don't want to go to the free throw line. That's not basketball. That's stupid.
It's stupid is what it is, just like Jim's back page next.
Oh, I hate you.
All right, we've got Jim's back page. On the other side, Aztecs basketball at 8 p.m. Stay with us. SI.com, whatever that, what's left of it.
I mean, AI, SI.com.
Yeah, they have these fanation sites, you know what I mean? They cover like the Warriors or San Diego State. There's an article today about what the EA Sports college football game means for the possible return of a college basketball game, which was discontinued 4 years before they discontinued EA Sports college football.
Okay.
And it kind of theorized, again, it's SI now, so take it for what it is. Exactly. For what it's worth, that now that you see the revenue model, like the way these student athletes are going to be compensated, it gives you a look into like the possibility of it. And they basically theorize that you shouldn't rule it out. Plus, there's more money potentially for the student athletes in basketball. The football, because there's 1/8.
Teams, yeah.
There's 1/8 the scholarship players. So, maybe you could pay them as opposed to $600, $6,000, or $3,000 or something like that. I mean, there's been so much excitement for this college football game. Should they take a crack at a college basketball version for the first time since 2009 as well?
I would.
I think, yeah, duh. The NBA 2K model. I mean, I don't. The hype on it. That's like minimal. Like when
the NBA.
Yeah. Like, do you even know who the cover athlete was this year, Brent, for NBA 2K? Even if they have that game out anymore.
It wasn't Luca. Who was it?
NBA.
You're saying do people not play the NBA or the basketball games as more as football? Like it just doesn't have the same.
No, they do, but
Yeah.
it's at the point now where it's like Madden, to where it's just everyone kind of takes it for granted, because it just comes out every year.
Sure.
And there's really no other competition because they put EA's NBA game out of business.
So I'm on their website and I don't see any image. It says NBA 2K24.
Interesting. But again, it's like you're bringing football back. You're doing that work. I mean, it's benefiting student athletes. I mean, who's it hurting? I mean, I think there'd be interest. Maybe not to the same interest as college football.
Kobe.
It's Kobe?
Oh,
Kobe was on the cover this year.
yeah. There's like the commemorative edition.
Oh, yeah. It's 2K24.
Okay. Yeah.
2 and
24. Yeah.
Okay. Makes sense.
All right. Anyway, Jim's back page.
On March 3rd,
Mm-hmm.
number 5 Iowa will take on number 2 Ohio State.
Women's basketball.
Women's college basketball. The current price to get into that game.
Where's the game? Iowa or Columbus?
I'll
find out.
Probably Columbus.
Probably one of those two.
One of those places.
Yeah.
Doesn't say.
It's Iowa City, so
Okay.
University of Iowa.
It is currently the most expensive ticket in women's basketball history.
How much?
$491 get in price.
Wow.
Wow. Dude.
What's the NCAA tournament going to be like?
Amazing.
Yeah.
It's going to be,
It's going to be,
I mean, not amazing, but it's going to be crazy.
Yeah. Well, think about viewership.
I know.
Yeah, until they get bumped in the first
Well, that's
round.
the thing. They're going to have to win. I mean, Caitlin Clark, Iowa.
The dream scenario is to get her in the Final Four.
They were in the final last year. Lost the national
Get
championship.
LSU.
Yeah.
Or at least some of that
Yes.
version. Because there's a little hatred there between Caitlin Clark
Yeah.
and the star player in LSU.
Yeah.
I'm forgetting her name.
Angel Reese.
Angel Reese, yeah. So that'd be great. Great for women's college
Brett
basketball.
brings up a good point. I mean, Iowa's been knocked off a few times in the Big Ten, but $500 to get into a regular season game?
No, thanks.
That's a lot of money. I mean, that's legitimately, that's a lot of money.
I'm not paying that for like anything.
Anything. I mean, that's a lot of money.
Yeah.
That's crazy that's the get-in price.
I know. The first NIL private jet deal is here, John.
Okay.
You know who Jackson Dart is?
Yeah, of course. Quarterback Ole Miss.
He
Dart. I like it.
Yeah. He has now signed an endorsement deal with a private jet company, Nicholas Air Fleet.
Because for him to fly, or for him to be compensated, or for him to promote the brand? I guess
It just says
brand.
It says the Heisman candidate Jackson Dart has signed a deal with Nicholas Air. Endorsement provides Dart hours to Nicholas Air Fleet of jets for travel, training, and philanthropy. So, like,
okay,
hey, I want to go here. I want to use the jet.
Pretty cool.
That's a pretty dope NIL
20?
deal. Yeah. Hey, I got a private jet.
Let me
Let's go
fly to LA because I got to go work with some trainer.
Yeah, just that awesome.
Yeah.
So there you go, private jet deal. Become a football player,
We
boys and
need
girls.
that. Jon and Jim.
Do you think we can get that?
So we could fly to Viejas.
Do you think we can get an endorsement for a private jet deal?
Yeah. I think we could.
Pokemon, John, is releasing a digital trading card game.
Okay.
Players will be able to collect and trade cards with 2 free packs per day. It's called Pokemon Pocket.
What do you think about that as a Pokemon guy?
I mean, I think that's pretty cool. You can like just get cards on your phone and do that.
But
But
wouldn't you rather have the cards? Like
nothing beats the like
Yeah.
old like in your hand, open the pack up, go to the
Yeah,
store,
yeah,
bring
yeah.
the pack home, open it up, take the 3 back from the back, take the 3 from the back, put it in the front. So the last card you get is either like a hologram or a crappy like, trainer card.
What are you talking about?
I don't know. Don't look at me.
Oh,
You're the
that's a
Pokemon
Pokemon
guy, not
thing?
me.
So when you buy a pack of Pokemon cards, right? What you do is you take out the whole pack,
Mm-hmm.
all right? The last you turn it over.
Okay.
The last 3, you take the last 3 cards and you put those 3 on the top. And then you flip it back over. So when you are looking like okay, that card, the last card will be either like a hologram special card or it will be like a crappy trainer card that you don't want.
So there's always a hologram card in the back.
The old days, no, there wasn't. But now I think there always is. Yeah.
What are you talking about? I'm seriously confused about it. But I have seen a lot of Pokemon cards. Like when I go to Target, half the cards, if not more, like Pokemon related.
Pokemon
What happened to like
cards,
baseball? We should do a Pokemon station.
there are people on YouTube that do that. Millions and millions and millions of followers. I'm not one of the subscribers. I'm not either, but I'm just saying.
All right, we're back at 7. Contest tip off San Diego State, San Jose State coming up at 8 p.m. If you missed anything today, sportsfest.com. For Brent and Jim, I'm John. Keep it here at San Diego Sports 760. Okay.